Hey everyone, guess what? We do not have ugly swag. We have spaced out radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your SOR swag. spacedoutradio.com, shop there today, and make yourself look good.
Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Greetings, space travelers. Welcome home. You've just tuned your dial to Spaced Out Radio, the only place where you can own the night. I am your host, Mr. Rob G, and tonight we'll be broadcasting to you on our terrestrial affiliates across North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, KPNL, and Odyssey Radio. Remember, you can access our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Spaced Out Radio, and at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where the options are endless. You can stay up to date with the SOR Newswire, get some official Spaced Out swag, plus rock out to some Bumblefoot and oh so much more. As you guys already know, Dave Scott is out with his daughter celebrating a fantastic occasion, graduation. It's always great when you can, see the kids get to that point where they've, hit their first, second, third successful spot in life, on a mission to go who knows where. Sky's the limit when you're young, and even when you're older as well. There's just so much opportunity, and, it's got to be an exciting time for Dave. I was honored to actually step in for this night here and fill in for him as always, right? Definitely want to go ahead and jump into the chat real quick and see who we have here tonight. So getting back into the chat here, going to the beginning, like I said, it's always going to be, I'm sure. No, wait a minute. So let me clean my glasses here real quick, make sure I got this right here. Okay, didn't get any email from Race Fan. Let me make sure of that. No email from Race. Okay, here we go. Okay, there it is. Appreciate you, Race Fan. Looks like Race Fan with the gold, Michael Fontaine with the silver, SJ with the bronze. We got Mario in the building too. What's up, Mario? Definitely glad to see you here in the chat. Said Dave, have you heard about people seeing the sun as early as 3:30 in the morning? Pole shift imminent. Can you ask Bob about that? More info to come. I'm holding on, and I tagged that, Mario. So we'll see what's happening. Let me go ahead and get through the chat real quick here, and I'll let you know more. But thanks for coming on in. Appreciate you showing up. Who else do we have? We got Robert Lamoth Jr. saying, hello, Dave. Dave is with his daughter, on a fantastic day, graduation day. Couldn't ask for anything more. Let's see. Tomorrow Man says, Mario, no one has heard about that. LOL. I don't know. We'll definitely take a look into that. Appreciate you coming on in, Tomorrow Man. Thanks for showing up here. We got Shaq Valet. Shaq Valet, sun's up 24 hours a day right now. By late August, it should be up around 3:30, I reckon. Okay, well, that's good information. Thanks for letting us know that, Shaq Valet. Thanks for confirming, validating Mario's claim there. Eric Austin. Good evening, Dave. Good evening, Eric Austin. Thanks for coming on in tonight. We appreciate you showing up. We got Stephanie Blankenship. Stephanie saying, good evening, guys. Thanks for coming on in, Stephanie. We appreciate you showing up here tonight. On the regular show, on Dave's show, filling in some big shoes tonight. Once again, Dave is out with his daughter, graduation night. So let's give congratulations to his daughter for making it through school, which isn't the easiest thing to do, with all the challenges that children have in their little society that they live in. So congratulations there. Thanks for coming, Stephanie. Jeff Garvey, say science Bob, exclamation mark. Appreciate you coming on in, Jeff. Thanks for showing up. We got Lisa C saying good evening, Dave. Science Bob. And SOR Gang, thanks for coming on in, Lisa C. We appreciate you. We got Deer Slayer saying, hey, Dave. Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming on in. We got Miss Catherine Jones, Miss Mama Catherine Jones, saying, good evening, Dave, Science Bob, and SOR family. Thanks for coming on in, Miss Mama Catherine Jones. We appreciate you coming in, supporting like you always do. Thanks for coming in. Commander Exorcist saying, good evening, SOR fam. Good evening, Commander Exorcist. Thanks for showing up here tonight. Carl Bittner, hey there, Captain, and all you spaced out peeps. Thank you for showing up, Carl Bittner. You're the man. We got Corey stepping in the building saying, hello, Dave and SOR. Hey, thanks for coming on in. We appreciate you showing up. Yes, FYI, Mr. Rob G, I believe we'll be hosting tonight. Yeah, Dave said that last night and last week that I'll be filling in for him as he goes to get to go and visit, go to attend his daughter's graduation. Right? Big. Only happens, college. I think it's college, right? Only happens once, maybe twice as she goes back and gets another degree. But it's always a fantastic time. You never want to miss something like that. So thanks for coming on in. Yeah, Michael Fontaine, we got you in the building. Appreciate you showing on up. I think I said your name, but we're just running through these names here. Appreciate you coming on in. JSCO77 saying, yay, it's Science Bob Night. Appreciate you showing up here. JSCO77. Let's see. Saludos a todo de Mexico. We had to get that in. Aloha, Dave. Good evening from Mexico. Aloha, Dave. Definitely always keeping us bilingual. So if you don't know anything else, good evening from Mexico out there. And we appreciate that. Let's get down the list here. Renee BK. Good morning, Dave, from cold, sunny Norway. Wow. Appreciate you coming on in all the way from Norway, Renee. Thanks for showing up. We got Me Woken with the little happy, content emoji. I like that. Thanks for coming on in. Millennium saying, hey, Dave. Hello, fellow space travelers. Thanks for coming on in, Millennium. We got Christine Lynn. Hello, all. Hi, Dave. Thanks for coming in, Christine Lynn. And Michelle Islis. Thanks for coming on in, saying, hey there. Appreciate you showing up. Moving down the list, we got Puck Elf. Definitely. Ouch, my back down. Hospital chairs. Okay. All right, Puck Elf. I just appreciate you showing up. So we don't even need to know, but appreciate you showing on up here. Let's see. Eli saying, yo, Eli, thanks for coming on in tonight. We appreciate you showing up. Gizmo. Hello, everyone. Appreciate you showing up here. Spaced Out Radio supporting tonight. We got Christine saying hi, loves. Woohoo, Science Bob is on. Appreciate you showing on up, Christine. A lot of Christines, right? A lot of Christines. There's Christine and then Christine. So I guess that's a difference there. We got Van Gold saying, hey, it's Spaced Out Radio family. Thank you for coming on in, Van Gold. We appreciate you showing up. Julie Farrell's been a minute. Our official plethora counter and sister of the chat, Julie Farrell, saying, greetings, space travelers and Wu Train hobos. I like that. Been watching a lot of hobos on YouTube lately, so that actually resonates with me pretty good, Julie. So thanks for showing on up. Thomas Rock saying, good evening, Rob. Good evening, Thomas Rock. Right back to you. Thanks for showing up. Paula Faust. Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming in, Paula Faust. Nina Williams saying, hello, everyone. Thanks for showing up, Nina Williams. We got Ange, Aussie Ange, saying, hey, Dave. Hey, Ange. Thanks for coming on in. Appreciate you showing up. Moving on down. Digger Dog has showed up saying me, M-E. Okay, let's do it then, Digger Dog. Thanks for showing up. Obviously, you see him trying to get down the list as quickly as possible right now. So let's go. Polly Rotterman. Hi, guys. Smiles, Hearts, and Dave. That's right. All love. Shout out to Dave Scott. We got Algaray saying, I'm doing my leg presses to climb the road to disclosure. There we go. I need to be with you. I'm going to go out there. I got a gym right outside my studio and be taking good advantage of that thing, too. Appreciate you for coming on in, Algaray. Let's see. Chill Farm Brisbane. Thanks for coming on in, Chill Farm. Appreciate you showing up here tonight. Let's see. Yo, getting down the list. Patrick Noble saying, Dave. Yep, Dave is with his daughter. Having an awesome time, I know that he is. Thanks for coming on in, Patrick Noble. We appreciate you showing on up. I said Chill Farm Brisbane. Look, my mind is somewhere. I'm just saying hello again, Chill Farm. Thanks for coming on in. I was trying to speed down this list. Matthew Gutka, thanks for coming on in. We appreciate you coming on and showing your love tonight. Same thing with Operation Shutdown. There's a real G, Mr. Rob G. Appreciate you, Operation Shutdown. Thanks for coming on in and supporting tonight as we get into some stuff. Let me see. Let's keep going. Who else is here? Stargazer. Definitely. Rob is not just a host. He's an experiencer. Thank you. And yes, and it's crazy. And you guys already know anything else that happens, when it happens, you guys will be the first to know. Things have been chilled since the last event and kind of hoping to stay that way. But we'll see. Thanks for coming on in. Warden Dragon saying hi, Rob. Thanks for coming on in, Warden Dragon. We got Paramarv. Paramarv is in the building. Howdy, folks. Hopes all is well with you and yours. Same to you, Paramarv. Thanks for coming on in. Super Crazy Movie Geek. Say, I wonder if Bigfoot graduated. Yeah, I guess, that'd be something to ponder, right? Definitely be something to ponder. Thanks for coming on in, Super Crazy Movie Geek. And yeah, that is President Zaddy saying salute, Rob G. F you, Dave, all the way over there from Texas, I believe, right, Zaddy? If I'm not mistaken, H-Town maybe, somewhere in there. Appreciate you coming on in. Thanks for showing on up. Let's see. Getting down the listy list. I'm just reading family names, right? And Lee the B. Wow, Lee the B. Hey, good evening. Thanks for coming on in. We appreciate you showing up. Paul Damon. Hey, Rob, have a great show. You know, we always try to do so. Paul Damon, thanks for coming on in. And with your support, should be pretty awesome. So let's do what we can tonight and fill in for Dave and make sure that, everybody has a great time. Yeah, Polly Rodderman. Hope Dave is feeling better. Yeah, truthfully, I'm going to check in with them because if he isn't, then, I'm open to covering for Dave for the rest of the week if it has to be there, right? That's what team players do. That's what family members do. We step in for each other in times of need, and I think that's what you're experiencing right now, right? So I'm here for it. Maybe take us right into the weekend with the after hours because we have some great guests coming in this weekend. Ed Odell will be touching on some demonology on Saturday, and then ending the weekend off with Preston Dennett, maybe talking about some USOs and who knows, plus Jax and Lee will be coming on hour 3 on Sunday with the crazy segment there that we'll be looking at. So it should be awesome, leading all the way through the end of the weekend, getting you into your week. Thanks all for coming, and make sure you're there. Make sure you're people here during the week. It's appreciated if you come on the weekend too, because it's always awesome when we get together. So we'd love to see you there. I think I'm almost down here. PK Turtle Dove saying, "Hey Rob G, hey PK Turtle Dove, thanks for coming on in." Sierra saying, "Hi Robbie G, hey Sierra, thanks for coming on in. Thanks for your support." And I think that's it. Plethora one. Yeah, see, plethora one. This is what I'm talking about. This is why we need Julie here. There's been a lot of plethoras that have been gone uncounted. So appreciate you showing on up. Let's see. Yeah, Dave Walters, Rob and Bob should be a gooder. I have a list of things, and we'll see what happens here. So let me get through the chat, and then we'll address a couple of things. Yes. Nice surprise to get you on the radio today, Mr. Rob. Best wishes to Dave and his family on this great occasion. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yep. H-Town salute. That's what I thought, President Zaddy. I was just there, and it's definitely awesome city, man, for sure. Let's see. Christine, Sweet Robbie G. Okay. Let's go. Okay, that's it. Bim Jim's the last one in, saying I make plethora soup. Okay, I like that. All right, so getting into the show here, right? So couple things, right? Tonight is our Science Bob night, but it appears we may not have any Science Bob. Yeah, unfortunately it doesn't look like Science Bob is going to be in yet. The haven't heard anything, so I hope he's okay, first of all, because normally Science Bob is on top of it. So hopefully something I just hope for the best. I don't know what's going on, but normally he's Johnny on the spot. He's here, he's in the back, and we haven't heard from him. So hopefully he comes in mid-show or something like that. So here's what we're gonna have to do, right? Yeah, right. So the thrills of live programming, right? So so instead of canceling the show, that is odd for Bob, Julie. I do agree, and that's the reason why. So I'm keeping an eye on our correspondence, just waiting to see things come up. You could be stuck in traffic, it could be there's a million things, life happens. Sometimes the show is not the first priority for everyone. And it just, it sometimes it happens like that. He could be at a graduation himself. You never know. It's just things that come up within life that kind of get in the way of things like this happening. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk here for a few minutes just to make sure that he isn't late and that he isn't coming in. Because what we're going to end up doing is we'll end up jumping into the archive and playing at least the first 2 hours of the interview, that way of an interview from the archive. That way I can come in for hour 3 and we can do hour 3 as a live show. But right now I'm going to give it probably a few more minutes here before we make that call. And there's some awesome stuff I had set up to go over with Science Bob too. And maybe we'll talk about that in hour 3, but you guys seen Kirkpatrick? Well, not really. Well, I guess so. Stephen Greenstreet released the latest part of his interview, talking with Sean Kirkpatrick, and I just don't know how to feel about Greenstreet. It's kind of back and forth. He did point out, and which I already knew, the lie that Kirkpatrick ended up telling of not having any knowledge of UFOs or being involved within the topic prior to 2022, when 4 years earlier he was in the Skinwalker Ranch meeting. So I have all this stuff. So I really hope Science Bob does make it in tonight, because these are some of the things that I want to address with him and talk to him about. I had a jam-packed, action-packed interview set up, and then maybe we'll end up having to run that back just to go back. And Stargazer says, I don't watch Green Street. Yeah, he is on the my thing is with some of these journalists. I guess we'll call him a journalist. I guess he is technically a journalist. So with these journalists, they kind of usually you should be more of a middle of the road sort of person if you're a journalist, unbiased opinion, kind of just reporting it as you see it. But Green Street tends to lean one way or the other. Even when prior to him having this skeptical approach, he was leaning pretty hard on the ufology side of it. I'll admit that with the Basement Office first couple seasons with Nick Pope. So he's more now that he's a skeptic, or now that he takes more of a skeptical approach to the subject. It just seems that his reporting comes from that biased sort of side of the conversation. So I had some great stuff pointed out. And I guess let me see what we could touch. Here. Yeah. I had a great show set up for tonight, man. So, but regardless, we just care about Science Bob. So, I just at least want confirmation that he's okay, and he can't make it. So maybe someone out there is listening and can reach out to Science Bob, because otherwise I have to pull the trigger on this show, this replay, and then we'll end up having to reschedule Science Bob. So I'll give it like 2 minutes here. Anything you guys want to say out there before we jump into this? I'm going to run the part of the replay here, and then we'll come back in hour 3 and pick up the live show if Science Bob does not show up. I had some great stuff showed up too. Look, let me show you. I had the slides all put together. Look, great show. I had a great show set up. Great show. Great show. This would have been awesome with Science Bob, but we'll run it back. We'll run this one back. So let me get that out of here. Okay. Yeah. All right. So that's what we're going to do. No word. So let me go ahead and get us. I'm going to bring, I'd pick this. Let me see. I'll let you guys pick here, right? Let's go into the archive. Let me get into the live ones. Let me get into the older stuff, and you guys will choose what we run tonight. Okay, this is what we'll do. When is this from? This is from August 2022. Okay. Let me make sure he's part of this here. Okay. This is what we're going to do. We're going to run a Science Bob episode. I have one here that we can run. All right. Let me pause it here. Give me just a second while we get this. Yeah, me too, tomorrow, man. I did reach out. Like I said, something could have come up. So it's definitely okay. Like I said, it's the complications of live programming, and this is what we'll do. So let me go ahead, and we're going to watch Science Bob previous episode and kind of go from there. And at the end of the 2-hour mark, so I'll cut off hour 3, Dave's hour 3, and we'll come back in and do something live. But here we go.
Dirty Filth as well. Scrolling on down, Lars Janssen is here. Number 12 in your program tonight. Number 12 in your program. Moving on here, there's Samantha and Data. How are you? Thank you for joining us as we continue on. Thin Lizzie Borden. Yep, she is awesome, and she is back again. Thank you for joining us. By the way, Thin Lizzie will be signing autographs after the show as well. And if you're lucky, her husband, Gary, may join her, but only on one exception. You got to tug his beard. You have to. It's the law. Glenn John McEnroe, nice to have you back. And let's see, Alien Critter, good to have you here. Cosmic Fleur, Donna Spencer. Marty Burback, how's it going? As we continue on with roll call, Cosmic Fleur again, because I like saying her name twice. Linda Thompson, thank you so much for kicking off
show. So I had to cough you up to be alive, because Simeon is going to be here to entertain us with some really interesting scientific discussion on the many things he has been researching recently. And I just wanted the audience to know that Lala Bright and I are taking Simeon's self-paced remote viewing course, and that's always good. And we're coupling that with blindfolded seeing with Wendy Gallant and doing Sean McDonald's book. And Simeon himself said that a good way to learn about the techniques for remote viewing is to do this blindfolded sightseeing, because you have a guaranteed reporting. You know exactly what the answer is a few seconds later, so you get instantaneous feedback. Where in the remote viewing, you without that, you have to learn by a long, slow approach, and that instantaneous feedback helps you learn faster. Simeon is full of really good tips like that, and he gives great talks about remote viewing, and I'm thinking it's going to be really terrific to hear from him tonight.
Well, thanks a lot,
Dr. Heine. You were just on a couple of weeks ago, and, we said we were going to bring you on quite quickly again, and here we are once again, because after that show we did just a few weeks ago, people can find it on our archives or podcasts at any broadcast network. I mean, Bob was like, Dave, we got to get Simeon back on for the show, and I'm like, yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. And you know what, Simeon, the one thing I want to say to you before we continue on here is every time you're on, or every time we have the ability to talk, I'm learning something. And I really appreciate that. A lot of times we bounce around these topics, but, I think few out there have the knowledge and the understanding of what we are going through in this weird and strange land as we're all trying to find our own answers. And I think you're one of the open-minded scientists that we need in order to help accomplish some of these goals. So thank you for your hard work.
Well, thank you guys, and thanks for having me here again. I mean, we all work together, guys. This is a collective effort to figure out what in the world is going on here. So it takes everyone. It takes everyone to do it.
Well, Bob, you wanted to do this one. I'm going to turn the keys to the ignition over to you, and let's run with it. Let's pick. I want to hear you guys pick each other's brains here tonight.
Okay, so you can see Lala Bright's super sticker. She's the person working with me through your course, and she is a superb psychic, and I'm a rote beginner. So there's some imbalance in that, and so good advice when you're working with somebody as talented as her and somebody as novice as me would be very helpful. So I'll give you an example. We took a pack of colored construction paper, and did the first step in the blindfolded sightseeing, which is, of course, your first step toward being able to do remote viewing. And I was really pumped up and proud of myself getting 60% of them right the first try, because I thought that was really good, and I believe it is. She got 100% the first try. So there's some disparity. How do you work through those disparities and when you're training together?
Yeah, no, it's a good question, Bob. So you're going through the virtual viewing class right now. I don't think
we are.
Yeah, I didn't recognize her name when she signed up, but I saw your name. I checked the class once. That's the virtual viewing self-paced class. Yeah,
we're sharing it.
Yeah, no, it's fine. That's great. I'm really happy to hear your results. I've enjoyed interacting with you as you've gone through it. Isn't it fun to learn that you have this ability for the first? I remember, Bob, when I first learned this back in 1996. I came in as an open-minded skeptic, like some of us are who've been through science training in graduate school. You mean you're open to it, but you want to see something that shows you that it's there beyond your belief one way or another. And it was such a amazing thing to see that I could do it, that other people in the class could do it. And everyone has a different degree of natural ability. I mean, I think everyone can perceive non-local information just spontaneously. But some people seem to be really tuned into it and they just get it a little more quickly. And I think Ingo Swann used to compare it to musical ability or artistic abilities. Everyone can draw to some degree, and some people are really good at it. And musically, everyone can hum a tune. Some people are virtuosos. And I think that applies to RV. That's my sense of it. I know other people have different ideas, but that's what I think it's like. Everyone has some degree of ability, but you can always improve on what you already have. And it's always practice that improves any natural ability. So I'm really pleased to see that you're so enthusiastic about it, that you've gotten results that show you that there really is something going on there, you know?
Yeah, I'm a mathematician. 60% repeatably is non-random. I
Right.
mean, that's not a random result if you can continuously. And of course, anybody who gets 100% every time they sit down, they've got something going on. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's pretty astounding. And then but we did take it a step too far. Pupils often try to jump way ahead. So we took the whole pack full of them, and we tried to do too much and we failed. So you got to pace yourself and constantly do this practice. So we learned that really quickly by trying to jump too far ahead.
Yeah, well, Ingo used to say to quit on a high. In other words, you quit when you got a good run of contact with the targets, and you don't push it too far to exhaustion until it's not fun anymore. I'll always be careful of that. It always should be something that's exciting, that's fun. I know what it's like to do too many sessions or too many in one day where it's just exhausting. And I think the military viewers, if I understand this correctly, suffered from that. They came in day in, day out to their building at Fort Meade, and they just were viewing and viewing and viewing. And I think some of them got burned out on it. So don't do that to yourself. Keep it fun and keep it exciting.
Yep, that sounds like great advice. Dave?
Well, just listening to you cohorts here kind of bounce off this, for myself, I'm sitting here thinking, naturally, after I had my own, let's just say, epiphany back in 2011, I didn't know that I knew how to remote view. I didn't know that I knew how to astral travel. It just seemed to happen naturally. Simeon, how many people are out there right now are having that experience just like me, where it's just natural, where it's happening and we don't know how, we don't know why, and yet here we are trying to experience these things, and we don't even know what we're experiencing or how to experience it.
No, Dave, that is such a good point. I'm so glad you said that. I think many people experience some facet of this non-local reality information, what I think of as a sort of resonance reaction. It can take so many different forms. I was just talking to a local tea store owner just yesterday, and he said, Simeon, I know what you're interested in. I have to tell you some experiences that happened to me as a teenager. On 2 occasions, I felt in the middle of the night that I had gone somewhere else. And even though I was awake, my eyes were closed. I could see I was in a location. I felt like I was physically in another location and I wasn't dreaming. I knew I was awake. What did I experience? I think a lot of people, just like on your show, you cover people's experiences with cryptids, right? Something that's actually still a new topic to me, despite the fact that I've been writing about it for, over half a year. And my Dark Matter Monsters book just came out. It's still a new topic to me. I think a lot of people have experiences with non-ordinary phenomena, and they don't know what to do with it because we haven't had any training in our society about this type of reality, and people become confused. More than likely, guys, they don't even talk about it to anyone. Just like this tea store owner finally confided in me. I've known him for a couple of years, and in some cases, I've known people who haven't told me about their experiences. It took decades. So it takes some sort of training, whether it's RV or CSETI training, Whatever you like to do, there's not just one way to do this. You should do something to get yourself in contact with this bigger reality, whether you see it as parallel realities or multiverses, whatever works for you. You need some sort of training to deal with it, because one thing I've learned from this, RV, your conscious mind doesn't know how to handle this, and it needs some help. It needs to know it's going to be okay. It's not being threatened by some sort of bigger spontaneous process that we're surrounded by.
Okay, so the fact that so many people are wanting to learn this or naturally have the ability to do this, Simeon, my question to you is, how do we control it? How do we get it to work for us?
Okay, so that's a question that comes up a lot, and I would say it's a type of control, more like a controlled crash. Because to do something like RV, and I'm happy to hear Bob's, reaction to what I'm going to say here, you're sort of going out of control, but not completely. You're letting the floodgates open up a little bit to your own unconscious, but still in a controlled way, if that makes any sense. It's like learning to ride a bicycle. I mean, the first time, remember as a kid when you're 5 and your mom taught you how to ride a bicycle, or your dad, there's that feeling of like being out of control. But once you kind of learn to center your gravity and to kind of flow with it, it's a new type of control, right? So it's giving up one type of control, learning another type.
So I also want to, I'm a radio guy. I mean, I just did software defined radios and in the early days, and did a lot of it and continue to do it. So this is not, you have a flood of signals coming into your brain. And the thing you have to learn is to tune the radio to the right channel. So you've got to figure out how to, with intent and focus and calming and shutting out the I gotta guess everything and characterize it, etc. brain, to the other part of the brain that just listens carefully and tries not to impose itself, its ideas, its preconceived notions, etc. It just lets the information flow, and you tune the channel. That's all you do, is tune the channel, but listen to what's on the channel you're tuned to. And I think that's a pretty good analogy too.
Yeah, I think it's a very good analogy, Bob. There's a lot of information coming into our awareness every single second, and we know from all the research that we filter more than 99% of it out all the time, every single second. And it doesn't stop when you go to sleep either, because there are parts of your brain that are more active when you're asleep than when you're awake.
Right.
So it's the way that people in CRV explain it, which is the system that Ingo Swann created. Some people call it controlled remote viewing, coordinate remote viewing, whatever you want to call it. The system I learned, and the system that I teach in the self-paced course that you and Layla have been going through, I mean, it's a process of separating signal from noise.
Right.
Same radio analogy. You've got noise, and that's coming from your imagination and your conscious mind and all the things that we're concerned about every day, survival issues, and just what all of us do every day. But you're focusing on this very subtle non-local signal, right? And Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels pretty faint.
No. It is faint. You got to really be mindful. You got to really calm down. You got to let yourself just kind of figure out how to wash all that trash out and get the one that, so it's like matched filtering, in the sense that you got a bunch of stuff coming and you're looking for a match to some filter type you've got, so that you get a big detection. And you can only do that if you work at it, because you've got to shape the filter to give you the match detection. Otherwise, it messes up the signal, and that washes it out in noise. So you're trying to increase the signal to noise ratio by some process in your brain. And we're going to learn it like you were doing naive machine learning. You're going to keep trying. You're going to tell yourself when you fail, and you're going to keep trying, and you're going to pat yourself on the back when you succeed. And you pat yourself on the back and you spank yourself a little bit when you fail. And then that tells your brain unconsciously what it needs to learn to do. Like training a baby how to speak. You say, no, don't touch the burner. and then it touches the burner and it gets a negative feedback. So you need positive feedback and negative feedback. And with that, you will learn.
Right. But let me add one important thing to that, what you just said. The one rule in CRV, there's really only one rule. It's just don't edit anything out.
Right.
So just so the audience is clear here, the filtering is not to suppress anything. The rule is once that session starts and you've got that blank paper, right? You have to decide if the signal that you're getting or the information, is it noise or if it's signal? If it's signal, it goes in one part of the page. If it's noise, right, it goes off to the right, analytical overlay, as we call it. And that's your job. That's the conscious mind's job during the viewing session, is to decide, not to filter as much as to decide, is that signal or noise? And we know that the noise is a lot louder than the signal. And it's just like you're saying, you're reversing what we've been taught for decades in school. We're taking that loud, noisy signal that talks in your mind all the time and saying, okay, that's great, but we're putting you off to the side of the page. Not saying you're wrong. We're just going to leave it to the side. We're not going to commit. And we're going to focus on that really subtle signal. And boy, was I surprised how subtle it was in the beginning, the first couple of days of training. I mean, it's there in the back of your mind. That signal is there. As you're saying, you learn to focus it on it as you do more practice. It's surprisingly weak, but surprisingly accurate. What a freaking paradox. It goes so much against our Western scientific tradition, where we're looking for loud technicolor data, almost the more technicolor, the more, the stronger the amplitude, the better. This is the inverse of this, because it's a resonant space. It's a really subtle signal. But once you do some training like you and Layla have done, and many others, you start seeing, wow, I can depend on that very subtle signal. It's very accurate. And I'll tell you something, if you have something coming up in your life, a situation an hour from now, later in the day, where you need to be paying attention, you're going to get some of that feedback coming in from the future earlier in the day. And the RV shows you all along why you could trust your intuition, because everyone has some experience of this in their life just naturally, right? When something comes up, or a family member is ill, or they need to do something or take a different route to work, and they just get this gut feeling, I should do this, without any logical reason why. That's the same signal, in my belief. It's just an RV, we learn how to train it a little more, but we all know what that is. It's just when it's survival, when you're on a camping trip or a extreme expedition or something, and there's a survival issue coming up, and you get that sense, a strong feeling. This is actually a lot more subtle because it's not as directly related to you.
Okay, so let me try to go at a slightly different approach. Maybe this will help people. Sure. Every statistician and probabilist knows the law of averages. And so you've got this thing which has some signal in it plus some noise. But the noise is completely independent, random from every time you take a look. So if you look for a while, you're going to get a bunch of looks with signal plus noise. The signal is always in the same spot. You look at it over and over and over again, and as you average all those things together, the signal starts to come out of the noise because the random stuff begins to cancel out. And that's the law of averages, or the strong law of large numbers, etc., in mathematics. So you just keep averaging, keep looking, don't give up, keep looking, and suddenly all the noise averages out, and the signal comes up out of the noise.
There you go. And I got an interesting little fact for you that I think you'll enjoy, Bob, which was Dale Graff, who was one of the directors of the Stargate program. It might have had a different name. I guess I can say this. He told this to us, so I don't think it's classified information. He actually came out of Wright-Patterson, working in noise and signal related to the stealth aircraft F-117.
Right.
And he once told me, I hope I'm not giving away national secrets here, that his job was to learn how to make it more invisible by looking at what noise looked like in the atmosphere and learning how to subtract that, so all you were left with was signal, and then how to add that back in so our adversaries wouldn't be able to tell the difference. So
but that's so high level, that's not classified. If you go down to how he actually did it,
right,
that's classified.
Yes. Yes, but it relates to RV, and it's no surprise that he's someone who wrote Psychic Tracks in the Wilderness, and he still teaches dream. He does it dream viewing, how to do the same process overnight while you're asleep. He thinks it's easier to do while you're asleep, but it's the same process. So
I believe the sleep part, because you're quieted. You're quieted down, and mostly you've got nothing. You have much more signal than you do crap, because you've shut down your ears, you shut down your senses.
There you go.
You're only listening to signal in the brain. So all that crap that's coming in from senses is no longer there because you're not conscious.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, we're going to take a break here at the bottom of the hour here on Spaced Out Radio. Man, that was a quick 30 minutes, right like that. Just snap of a finger and bang, we are gone. That's what happens on Science Bob and Friends with Dr. Bob McGwier, formerly of Virginia Tech University, and Dr. Simeon Hine, as we continue the remote viewing talk when we return. And I got a question for Dr. Hine when we return, and I'll let him ponder it over the break here. And that is, are there places we're not allowed to remote view or astral travel to? Maybe there are, maybe there aren't, but I know a good friend of mine recently got warned. We'll talk about that when we return on Spaced Out Radio right here. Stay tuned. All right, gents, remember the YouTube audience can hear us, and Simeon, I'll get you to answer that when we come back from
YouTubers. Great questions. Boy, this is fun. I love talking about this subject. Jeez.
Oh, it's so much fun.
Do you pick up?
You're pretty eloquent, so it's easy to listen to. I've listened to a bunch of your lectures, and they're never boring.
Well, thank you.
No, I was really. I watched your recent thing where you had your recent live YouTube thing. That was fun.
No, thanks, Bob. And I'm sure you really seem like someone that would really, get something out of it. You have the experience. The radio analogy is really good. But I think for all of us, Ingo wasn't exaggerating. It's one mother of a surprise. The fact that it works and that everybody can do it to some degree, and nobody told you about this in all the years any of us were in school. No one ever said, oh, by the way, your intuition can be 60, 70, 80% accurate. Who told? No one told us this.
I didn't believe any of it until I got to know Dave.
Well, and that actually leads to a question. Simeon, I freaked out Science Bob one time where we were having a conversation, and I actually picked up that our conversation was being remote viewed.
Wow.
And I actually saw the remote viewer. And I actually even pointed out, I've never been to Bob's house. At this point, I hadn't even seen pictures of it. And I actually said, Bob, there's a big bay window near you. And is there a big tree in the distance of that window, like close by that window? And he goes, yes. I said, there's a man standing there. And Bob turned around and actually saw the shadow of the man.
And felt creepy crawly all over me in that direction.
Yeah.
And then the other thing Dave said, after I found this camera across from the front of my house, and I didn't put it there in a notch in a tree.
Wow, there it is. There it is.
So I got Dave to describe the RVer, and other people have had that I won't mention here have had me and them being remote viewed. They're an artist. I had them draw a depiction of the RVer. Yeah. I actually knew which one and where at Fort Meade he sat. Oh boy, that did not go well for them.
Yeah. So you have the feedback. You actually have the camera that somebody. It's such a fascinating subject, and it's like this spy versus spy. Remember that old cartoon?
Oh yeah.
Well, actually, it seemed like that in the RV world, at least during the Cold War. The viewers from the Soviet Union, the U.S. viewers at DIA, they eventually met each other after the Cold War. Ed May wrote that book, ESP Wars, East and West, and he describes going over there and meeting their counterparts. And of course, they all got along really well because they had so much in common. But it sort of really happened, and I imagine it happens even here. I can imagine scenarios where it would be happening more than you would think. So,
well, I retired. I retired after 27 years. I left the IC to go be a professor at Virginia Tech for 11 years. But before that, I was in the intelligence community for 27 years. Yeah. And then I retired on 6 May 2020 because I was sick of sitting in a building all alone with a closed down campus because of COVID.
Yeah.
It just got to be too much and I left.
I can understand that. I've got an interesting story for you about this. Glenn Wheaton of the Hawaii Remote Viewers Guild, once people might be familiar with him, he gave a presentation of viewing the Soviet numbers recipients. Do you remember on shortwave radio, there would be women?
The number stations. I used to record them. Not only that, I tried to decode them while working for the agency.
Oh, well, wow. As a kid, when I used to listen to shortwave radio, I'd save up my paper route money. And I was wondering as a 10-year-old, what is this? Well, Glenn Wheaton, he disclosed to us, they did viewings of the recipients, the people in our country who are waiting for their numbers to be called.
The illegals.
And some of them, when they actually arrested some of these people, it was so close to his sketch. So really remarkable. So that's another way it was actually applied, which I don't think many people know about.
So at the NSA,
I got to cut you off right there because we're going to come back in 10 seconds. Thank you to Linda, Ken, and Lala for the amazing super chats. Very much appreciated. It's a great way to support what we do. Here we go. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you so much for tuning us in. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate having you all here. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. All right, let's get right to it. Science Bob and Friends is the show tonight with Dr. Bob McGwier, who joins us once a month to skip out on the woo and talk about the who, what, where, when, why, and the science behind all things phenomenal. Tonight, we are joined by Dr. Simeon Hein, and we are talking remote viewing. And Bob, I'm going to start off with a question I had for Simeon right before the break. A couple weeks ago, one of our weekend hosts, Jessica Jones, was going to do a show, because she is a remote viewer, on remote viewing the moon. And about an hour before showtime, from someone that she knows, she got a warning saying that it is not safe for her to do that and to change topics immediately. Now, I have heard personally there are certain topics and certain places that are not to be remote viewed. You can actually get in trouble because they do have security that looks for this type of thing. Is this all sci-fi, or is it really happening first and foremost?
Yeah, good question. Where's Ingo Swann when you need him? This is what Ingo was so fascinated by. What led him to write his book, Penetration, A Question of Extraterrestrial and Human Telepathy. He wrote a book about viewing the moon for some black budget agency, which is still to this day, we don't know who it was. But my belief is that everything in theory should be viewable because it has a frequency in space-time, a quantum frequency. It should be perceptible to you, disregarding whether it's the ethical questions or legal questions. I think, just the physics questions is that things should be viewable to us. Now, what Ingo believed, and I can't verify this, but it goes to your question, is that he thought that there were species that didn't want us to develop our viewing ability, that didn't want humans to grow or evolve. And that's what prompted him to write his book, Penetration. But I think things are more viewable than you would expect. But I think, and I've seen some of Jessica's shows recently, so I know what you're talking about. You might get the feeling like it's not a good idea. And here's why. Viewing creates a two-way connection with the target. And this is why I like to spend a lot of time on neutral targets that won't care if you view them or not, like monuments and landmarks and mountains and public figures and so forth in the public space, because you're creating a resonant connection. And quantum entanglement, it's a two-way street. I've heard a story, guys, where a viewer was doing corporate spying for a particular US corporation. And one day she stopped at a gas station to fill up her car, and she noticed that the guy at the other pump was staring at her. And she looked back at him and realized it was her target that she was supposed to be spying on, and that he recognized her in some vague way. And it made her feel so uncomfortable, I'm told, that she never did it again. So it has to do with, what do you want to be connected to? What's on the other side? Is it something that you want to have a resonant relationship with? That would be my answer.
Is there places, though, in my second part of this question, that you should stay away from? I'm thinking Area 51, the Kremlin, the Pentagon, because one thing is, as someone who has actually seen remote viewers remote viewing me, and it happened with Science Bob here, it worries me that all of a sudden you have that ability to maybe go into an area that's a no-go zone, and now all of a sudden you've left some sort of, I get what you're saying, you've left some sort of mark there that other remote viewers, can now track you on that.
That's such an interesting question. My guess my response would be, you always need to consider the ethical side of it. I mean, would you feel comfortable if someone was viewing you in that way? You need to ask that question when you're the viewer. Would you feel comfortable if you were on the other side? Would you feel it was okay or not? As far as Area 51, we love viewing Area 51. We've had some of our best sessions viewing Area 51, looking in the hangars and so forth. It's all, to me, at the end of the day, like being in a movie theater. You're not actually there. You're picking up signals from that location in space-time. That's my view of it, which is why I call it resonant viewing. I don't actually think it's like astral travel. I don't think you're literally going to the site. I don't think you're breaking any laws. I'm going to go back to Bob's analogy. Also being, as a kid, starting with radios, crystal radios. That's how I started my interest in all this, was building kits and electronics and stuff. The signals are there. All you're doing is deciding to go beyond the ordinary social consensus reality that you've been conditioned to believe is the only thing that's real, and pick up more signals. So that's what you're doing. And in a movie theater, if you don't like the movie, you can leave. You can walk out of the movie theater. And that's what RV is like. If you don't like what's going on, and I don't encourage people to view things that could be upsetting to them or disturbing or anything like that, unless that's what you've signed up for. But you can always end the session. And I like to say, and people who've trained with me, I repeat this, and I learned this from Lynn Buchanan. The viewer is always in charge. Lynn Buchanan, the viewer from the DIA. The viewer is always in charge. So the viewer can end the session. They can say, I don't want to do it if they don't like it. So if you're in charge and you're picking up signals like a special radio, a special etheric non-local radio, the signal is here. The signal is actually in the space around you. You're not actually at the space. So I don't actually think you're violating laws by doing that.
Science Bob, you've worked in the intelligence side of this. What do you think?
Um, I well, so I'm a little bit skeptical, but I've got an open mind. But I do have another question for Simeon that's just kind of been weighing on me. So it's a little difficult. So I'm gonna poke. Um, uh, Talking about quantum entanglement to somebody who has done a lot of quantum mechanics, as being a part of this, I'm a little confused. I'm going to tell you why. So, quantum entanglement says if I throw two dice up in the air and I uncover one of them, it tells me something about the other one. Okay. So, but when I uncover the one I look at first, it's completely random inside my hand. And so when I open it up and see what the random thing is over here, all of a sudden I know something about what the now non-random thing is in the other hand. So what this means is I don't the die in my hand doesn't even exist until I look. So since it doesn't exist in my hand till I look, I can't see how to use it to transfer information. So I don't understand how quantum entanglement has a lot to do with remote viewing. I'm lost and confused. So help me.
Yeah, and you're not the only one, Bob. I've actually asked this to physicists in the Boulder area, some of whom work at NIST and these government labs, exactly the same question.
Good.
And they have assured me that there's macroscopic quantum entanglement. They give me examples of quantum computers and all other examples. So because this is what's come up so many times, is exactly what you've said, is that quantum entanglement doesn't exchange information.
Whatever you do it for less at Harbor Freight.
That people understand that spooky action at a distance, because Einstein talked about it. But my preferred analogy is tuning forks.
Yes.
If they're at the same frequency and you hit one tuning fork, the other will spontaneously ring.
I love it.
At a distance. And that is how I explain it in my classes, because everyone knows tuning forks, everyone knows instruments. When things are at the same frequency, they just naturally.
So I get it. So now my brain is emitting a signal, and the signal is my tuning fork pitch. My signal goes out and excites somebody else's tuning fork pitch in their brain if they are open to it.
Yeah, and you have the ability to modulate the frequencies that your unconscious mind picks up. This must be true if RV works, is that you can pick up a broader range of frequencies than the ordinary electromagnetic spectrum.
Right.
And what you've been told by society is real.
Right.
This must be true. You're picking up more. And your unconscious has the ability to translate that into words, which your conscious mind picks up and writes down. So what it means is that we have a much broader frequency bandwidth. The human beings have a much broader frequency bandwidth than we thought. And this is why we also pick up other life forms and UFOs and other species that operate at different frequencies that we normally don't see, is because you actually can pick up a lot more. The barrier to actually describing it, I don't think, is our physical, our physical orientation, our bandwidth. It's our social conditioning to think this is real, this is not real, push this away, this isn't real. You didn't see that dog man over there. You didn't see that Bigfoot while you were having to pick it. I mean, the research shows, and we were talking about this, I believe, in the last show, in attentional blindness, the fact that you delete so much of what's coming in, even to your conscious mind, from your physical senses. So RVs like going the opposite direction. It says stop deleting so much. And what that means is we're all picking up a lot more than we're actually conscious of. RV is just training how not to delete, not to push it away, and not to ignore it.
Got it. Okay, so Simeon, tell our audience, if you would please, about, I know you're on a little bit of a hiatus and you're about to start some more classes. I think you said in the fall. So why don't you tell our audience about the classes you have available online and the ones you're going to do in the fall?
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah. So some people like to train on their own, and I created over a period of time these video courses, kind of a free one, which anyone can go through, because people often say, I just want to try it. So I put together about 6 or 7 videos. These are all at virtualviewing.org. You can try the free class out. A 20 video class, the inside class. And then I recorded every little thing I know about the topic and all the ways it's applied to map dowsing and sort of different applications. And I created what I called the master class, which is 50 videos, because there's some people, Bob, who like to do it on their own, who don't want a classroom setting. There are other people who say, I've spent enough time in front of a screen. I want to take a live class with you at a physical location, or at least do a Zoom class. So I do the live classes also, which I think the last time I did it a couple of months ago is over 6 weeks or so. And we meet in a Zoom setting online and we do targets. Now, I guess my preference is actually a live physical class where I can see exactly what people are writing down on the page. We can do one-on-one. People can break up into groups, monitor and viewer. I prefer that. Obviously, during the past couple of years, it wasn't practical for people to get on planes and to come out and to live classes in small rooms with each other. So we did things over Zoom, and I learned to expand it to do it that way. So I will be doing some of those classes again in the fall, where we do it over Zoom. And I'm actually planning in October to have a live class, partly about RV, partly about resonance, partly about cryptids and what we learned from crop circles up in Estes Park. An actual live class again, where we do a little bit of all of this and show how it's connected. I think there are advantages and disadvantages to any of the applications. Doing self-paced video, for many people, that's the most practical thing, because they may not be able to fit into your Zoom schedule. They may work in the evening or when you're teaching the class. So there's just strengths and weaknesses, I think, as everyone knows who's listening right now, to learning in different ways. And I think it's good to have all these different modalities, because some people will prefer one over the other.
Yeah, so I want to recommend the free 6 videos because Simeon gives a fairly high level overview of what is RV and a few simple things you can try all on your own to kind of whet your appetite. And it did. So after my appetite was whetted, Simeon told us that the course would not be available into the fall. And being a little bit impatient, we jumped in on the longer course that you do self-paced. I believe that given that experience and it being successful will allow us going into a class to be better prepared and more enthusiastic about jumping into it, because 6 weeks is a long time for people to kind of go through stuff, and they need some kind of head of steam to push all the way through to the end.
Yeah. You're absolutely right, Bob. This takes a lot of fortitude and persistence. You know that because you've done some of this training. Right. With anyone that you work with. RV could be one of the most difficult things you ever learn to do, because your mind is conditioned to go the other way, to listen to the loud signals. But it's worth it, because to really get to know how things work, how you perceive reality and what you've been deleting, how much more information's there. I mean, didn't you find it worth it to push through it and to see something? Yeah. So it's just like anything, you put some effort into it and you'll realize, wow, I had more ability than I thought I had. And it kind of opens doors, like it did for me, other subjects, other areas. You start wondering, well, what else is true that they didn't tell me about? And you realize there's a lot and a lot of different directions to go. And it's about fine tuning, these things that the nature already built into us.
Well, I also have this kind of theory and not belief and now experience that says if you're around extremely talented people, they rub off on you. So if you're around RVers, you watch them, you learn from them by watching them do it. And I think other things are like that too. And I think there's some really subtle things that we pick up when we are around people who have an ability or are experiencers, in the sense that they have been through something and somehow they impart some of it to us. I had that with Bledsoe and I've had it with Lala. So I'm just telling you, I believe that very strongly. And Dave. So I believe very strongly that something about being around people that are already doing it really helps.
Yeah, it's like a positive hitchhiker effect. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I think that's an important part. As we got about 5 minutes to go here before we got to go to break at the top of the hour. But I think that's an important part because, Simeon, the one thing that I've noticed is I can be sitting around with people or hanging out watching a hockey game or a baseball game or something along those lines, and nothing happens. I'm not feeling anything. But the minute I start getting around people who are, let's call it, in tune, okay, all of a sudden I'm fired right up, just like something is sparked in me. What causes that?
Well, again, I would say that goes back to resonance. We sort of become like the frequencies and the resonance of the people and the living things that we're around. It rubs off on us because we're alive and we all have our own frequency in a very real sense. And you sort of absorb the other frequencies that you're around. So you should sort of be very selective of what you want to be exposed to and who you want to be exposed to. And if you're around people that push the envelope, I mean, I'd like to believe I'm one of those sorts of people, you'll find yourself pushing the envelope a little bit more. And there's nothing but good things that come from pushing the envelope a little more in a controlled, careful, intelligent way. And that's what this whole journey has been for me, is how much else is real that you didn't know about, that nobody told you about. And you're around it all the time. Isn't it a shame to go through life, your whole life, without knowing what you're around? What else is in our space with us right here that we're not really aware of? And especially that society said, well, we're not going to tell you about. RV sort of pushes that envelope. Ingo was a great teacher for all of us. He was the pioneer of viewing the moon. And he also had a Mars project, as we learned about recently at the last IRVA conference, which I attended, via Zoom. He had 3 RV sessions projects about viewing Mars. And they were viewing structures on Mars. We heard from some of the people that had participated. None of us knew about this until I didn't hear about it till a couple of weeks ago. It never made it into his book. But so you surround yourself by people that intelligently push the envelope and you'll learn more about yourself. That's my experience too.
Bob, 3 minutes.
Okay. Yeah. So, Simeon, recently, you push forward on Amazon and other places, opening minds at a very reduced rate, which I want to highly recommend to people. Tell us quickly, if you can, what was the goal and in writing Opening Minds, because it covers some interesting topics.
Yeah, well, it started out as an RV book. I was originally going to write a book about some of these RV sessions that I've been involved with, where I saw people do, it's even double blind and they reproduce the target. They say exactly what's in the picture. And then, these like the Washington Monument session. And you're right. I had this book until yesterday. It was free Kindle download for 5 days, just as a 20th anniversary celebration. But when I went to England and I saw the crop circles and people were doing spontaneous RV and crop circles, I mean, they'd literally draw the ones that would show up the next day and have these really interesting experiences. And then some of the RVers would see orbs in the room when they were doing a session, Bob. And these were seen around crop circles. Or if I saw one myself, I realized there was some connection between what seemed like different topics. One was a structured type of resonance, crop circles. One was
Right.
a less structured. But I realized there was a commonality between some of these, what we call paranormal phenomena. And then I realized they really should go in the same book, that there was something else going on with reality that I had never heard about before studying RV and crop circles. And
I believe it, because I mean, like the golden ratio is everywhere.
there you go. There you go.
Fibonacci numbers are everywhere.
Yes.
There's commonality all over the sacred geometries are everywhere. So if you look, you can see stuff, and these patterns are important, even if you don't know what they mean.
Fractal geometry, the golden ratio, like you're saying, Leonardo da Vinci knew about this. People knew about this a long time ago. You realize there's some underlying knowledge which we had forgot as Western society, and it was connected to these so-called paranormal phenomena, even going to UFOs, that there was a really big mystery here. And that to find out what was going on, we have to let go of some of these older paradigms and really look at the newer evidence, and sort of make sense of why.
Yeah, I think T. Allen Greenfield has been a guy who has heavily influenced a lot of us to think about these interconnecting relationships, and that's really what underlies his secret cipher of the UFOnauts, is all these weird relationships, and he's figured out a way to do some calculations to reveal them.
It's incredibly intricate, and there's so many layers, but there is so much we don't know yet, because we weren't taught it from a kind of a mechanistic Newtonian paradigm. It just wasn't there. And it's based, as you're saying, golden section, Fibonacci series, and all of that. So, yeah.
All right, gentlemen, I'm going to get a hold on right there as we're through hour number 1. Hour number 2, coming up, remote viewing, crop circles, UFOs, paranormal, wherever it goes. Science Bob has control of the conch tonight. Spaced Out Radio with Science Bob and Dr. Simeon Hine continues on Spaced Out Radio right after this. All right,
I'll give you an example of something I learned today, which I never expected, that the Ariel school incident was actually Muppets. It was Jim Henderson's Muppets. This is what I learned.
That's your buddy Midwest.
That was what the big headline on UFO Twitter today was. It was that it was all puppets. And as we learned from some of our UFO researchers, that the school children at Ariel School actually saw Muppets, and they thought they were extraterrestrials, and this is all it was. So
yeah, right.
Yeah,
right. I think John Mack traveled half the world to talk about hand puppets. UFO Twitter is a garbage dump.
I don't think anyone bought into it, but there were some people we know out there, I won't mention their names, who were proposing this to say, guys, for a second, just consider it might have been puppets. I mean, just suspend your idea. And maybe that's what people have been seeing, that they thought were, extraterrestrials visiting them, were actually puppets. Puppets that somehow manifest themselves in your room, go through the walls, and show up en masse at a schoolyard. Also other schools, Westall, Australia, and so forth. But anyway, I'm kidding, but that was what we were expected to believe today if we were reading Twitter.
I gotta go toss a load of clothes in.
Yeah, sure. We'll see you back in a second. Well, guys, since I have the mic, I think we should have a musical interlude. What do you say?
Play Freebird.
Yes, right. This was kind of popular in the last.
I really digged it the last time you were here. Knock it out of the park, man.
Beautiful.
All right. Be back in 1 sec.
Hi, I'm Dave. Hey, where's the other piece of art there, Dirty Filth?
I was going to draw a quick crop circle painting, but we got this guy up here. Hold on 1 second here. Ugh. Whoops. That's terrible. Clunk. Whammo.
Well, that was yesterday's.
Oops,
What's
that's the other
today?
one. Flip her over. Handy UFO guide.
Oh, very nice.
It could also be it's just basically swamp gas is what you're looking at.
Very nice. Very nice.
I had to go look at some strange things, and this is what we came up with. A whole bunch of swamp gas.
Very nice. I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing.
You're very welcome, Dave.
Very nice.
Pretty good show you're having tonight.
Tonight's a power show, man. Absolute power show with Power Art, Power Simeon, Power Bob, Power Dave. All right. We got 10 seconds here. Thank you to Linda, Ken, Lala, Thomas, and Kira for the amazing super chats. It's a wonderful way to support what we do. Here comes hour number 2.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with hour number 2 on Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for tuning us on in. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. We say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. And the Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Tractor. Tractor is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Yeah, the password is actually Karst. Karst is your password. The Clam changed it at the last minute. All right, tonight, Science Bob and Friends continues for the next 60 minutes here on the Mighty SOR. Joining us tonight is Dr. Simeon Hine remote viewing specialist. He's into crop circles, into everything that is abnormally normal. And we're having a good time tonight. Science Bob, you enjoying tonight's show?
I'm loving it. So there's so many questions to ask Simeon. But I'm gonna yield, Dave. You try one.
All right. We've touched a lot on remote viewing, and Simeon, I'm very curious about a lot of the aspects of remote viewing, astral travel. To me, they're one of the same. Do you agree with that?
Not exactly the same, but they're part of the same spectrum of phenomena. And the reason we know that's true is the first test subject at SRI with Hal Puthoff and Russell Targ was Uri Geller. Everyone knows Uri Geller and his feats of psychokinesis. He was also an outstanding RVer. There is that really excellent film about RV that everyone needs to watch. It's called Third Eye Spies, created independently by Lance Mungia and Russell Targ. And it's the best RV documentary ever put together, as far as I'm concerned. Third Eye Spies. And it starts with their investigation of Uri Geller. He was only here for 6 weeks because the U.S. government was concerned that he wasn't a U.S. citizen, and national security, he was an Israeli citizen, and so forth. So they discontinued working with him. But in the initial episodes, he could do PK, he could do RV. They actually have clips of him viewing things. Bob, you were talking about Layla getting 100%. Well, Uri would get everything right, or almost perfect, one after the other. Initially, guys, they did not start with coordinates and viewing distant targets and map targets like they did with Ingo when he insisted that they try coordinates. Initially, they only thought it was going to work with objects in boxes. And they had Uri viewing things in boxes, opaque, so you couldn't see what was in there. And he would inevitably describe what was inside the box. And they have the footage of him actually at SRI, and he goes like, okay, and he would just say what it was, and it would be correct. But here's the thing that a lot of people don't know. When they were working with Uri, they encountered cryptids around SRI. We've all heard of this happening in Skinwalker and Lukatsky's book with Knapp and Keller, Skinwalkers at the Pentagon, and the Dino Beavers, and then seeing dogmen in their backyards in Maryland, and their kids seeing them, and then the kids' friends started seeing the cryptids in the backyard. Well, this actually started with Uri, and that should make you wonder. What they saw were some researchers who had worked with Uri would wake up and see huge crows at the foot of their bed inside their homes with, the windows had been closed. They encountered strange entities. Aports would show up. I believe it was either Russell or Hal's lapel pins showed up that they had been missing for months. One of them showed up in ice cream that they bought at the beach, and another one flew out of the sky and landed at their feet. So you had aports, cryptids, even a small UFO. One of the scientists, I believe at Lawrence Livermore Lab, if I'm not mistaken, saw a small UFO flying around the lab. So what does this tell us? That these phenomena are all connected in some way, that there's another underlying reality that once you sort of break through, whether it's through RV or an interest in other phenomena that are related to this, it all takes you to the same place, whether you're ready for it or not. And that includes a really different cast of characters than we're used to. Obviously, the listeners on this show are familiar with these characters. Where they reside, it's another sort of space around us. And somehow being involved, Dave, with RV connects you to these other phenomena. And again, with crop circles, there are some examples I know where people had spontaneous remote viewing of crop circles that wouldn't show up until the next day, just while they were in another circle. It drew really accurate drawings of them. I have it in the book. So what it shows us is that we're surrounded. This is one explanation, by parallel realities, multiverse, and somehow there's bleed through from these, and it can actually physically come through, and you see other entities around you. Now, you can call this the hitchhiker effect if you want. To me, it's a type of multidimensional resonance. And it's kind of a long-winded answer, but that's the kind of the answer why astral travel could be connected to RV. They sort of feel like the same thing. But once you engage in any of these, whether it's astral travel or RV or anything sort of in between, because Dave, I actually don't think you're with RV. I'm fairly convinced you're not physically traveling anywhere. I think you're, again, going back to the radio analogy we've been using, you're picking up frequencies. But these phenomena to me seem interrelated, and that's what I'll always believe until someone shows me evidence to the contrary.
Thanks, Bob.
Okay, so Simeon, let's talk about some of your other works. What was the intent and goal in a really interesting book, Planetary Intelligence?
Yeah, so this book, Planetary Intelligence, thanks for asking about it. People would ask me, Bob, over and over, how do I get better at RV, right? They would want to know, what do I need to do? Do I need to buy some expensive equipment? Do I need to take a certain drug? Or is there, you get this question a lot. Does alcohol help RV? Which doesn't seem to be the case. What makes you better at RV? The one thing that I know that seemed to make me better at it was getting closer to the way nature actually works, to be a little closer to the winds and the waters and the trees and the forests, to kind of get in the flow. I think the Japanese call it forest washing or something like that. Isn't there a term they have in Japanese? It's because we're all conditioned to be very sort of mechanistic to fit into modern temporal schemes of hours, minutes, and seconds. These things that Western society has invented. But there are other fractal patterns underneath that we're all a part of. Just like during an RV session, we learn to pay attention to more subtle signals. You can do that in your own life and pay more attention to subtler aspects of yourself, feelings, kind of perception, awareness of your environment. And I know the people at DIA would actually do this type of training, which actually even spies would go through, which is to do exercises where you'd actually learn to pay more of attention to your environment and not assume that just because you're in a restaurant, it's really a restaurant, right? Well, it's the same way with our lives. It's when you go out to pay attention a little more to cycles of the sun, the cycles of the moon. So planetary intelligence came out of basic, simple activities that you can do that just remind you that you're a physical being living on a planet which has its own cycles and rhythms and frequencies. And if you pay attention to those a little bit more, you'll learn to be a better observer of your environment and be more connected to. So that's where planetary intelligence came from. Yeah.
Okay, so I really liked Black Swan Ghosts. So tell us about that.
Well, as all of you know, when you get involved in these subjects, I've said many times that RV is like a gateway drug to different topics. And part of the reason is you get very interesting people showing up to learn RV. And even going back to the Farsight Institute back in 1996, when I was an instructor there, we would have very interesting people show up who had worked with the government, for the government, as contractors, or within NASA and so forth. And during breaks, they would all tell us UFO stories. Now, this was sort of a new thing for me back in the 90s. I mean, I just come out of graduate school. Well, as fate would have it, I kept running into more and more UFO witnesses. Some of them were in England. Some of them were here. People who I'd meet at conferences would tell me fantastic stories. People who had worked for NASA or JPL. And they would all tell me they had proof positive. They had actually seen extraterrestrial wreckage and things like that. So I realized I've encountered so many of these UFO, ET, or crash wreckage witnesses. It's a whole nother book. Why did I call it Black Swan Ghosts? Because until very recently, I guess we would say the New York Times, December 2017 article and Politico articles about the subject and about the Nimitz incidents and so forth, and OSAP and ATIP and all that, we weren't having much of a national discussion. I mean, I think we can all agree it's a little better than it was pre-2017, right? And so it's a black swan sort of event. It's something that society's pushed away. We haven't wanted to talk about it. These witnesses had never had anyone even want to listen to them before, for the most part. And it's a kind of a ghostly topic until the last few years where we've decided, hey, we're going to start having a national discussion, even if a lot of it is still in classified House and Senate committees, which we're told. We don't know because we're told this from the people who've worked in this field and come forward. We all know we're talking about Elizondo and Mellon. But it's another, guys, I'm actually not a physicist. I'm a sociologist. What do sociologists study? We study hidden events. We study the things that people don't want to talk about because they're afraid of the consequences to their social status, their economic standing, and so forth. And again, any of these topics we've talked about, from RV to UFOs, even things, crop circle research, and now cryptids, what you'll find when you talk to the witnesses is that they have a concern about being ridiculed, stigmatized, and laughed at by neighbors, colleagues, coworkers, and so forth. And again, that's another way in which these topics, ignoring the physics for a second, just from a sociological point of view, why these topics are connected. Because we've pushed it to the side, and the witnesses are often very reluctant to come forward because they think it's going to have a negative impact on their life in some way, more of a negative impact than a positive one. So that's just another way that you connect these topics, is people who've had experience with anything related to these subjects need some encouragement, and hopefully we'll get it now with some sort of congressional mandate, not just to encourage them to come forward, but to legally, make them come forward or give them protections to come forward. So we know what in the world is going on with reality around us. I mean, it's obviously a much bigger story. We're just at the tip of the iceberg right now. I mean, I'll tell you one example, and I put that in my most recent work, Dark Matter Monsters. It's buried in there if you can find this story. I ran into a top level engineer that everyone would know if he wanted to come forward, who told me without a shadow of a doubt, 100%, kind of what like Gary Nolan was talking about recently in one of his interviews last week, that he had handled wreckage for some agency which he didn't want to name. And he knew, as someone who was very familiar with creating microelectronics, that this is no way this could have come from our planet with the level of technology we had. And that this was some sort of just highly advanced quantum technology that could reshape space-time. And we spent several days at a conference together, and he described for it to me, drew what it looked like under a scanning electron microscope, and never could get contact from him. He did not want to come forward. He's one of these people. There must be hundreds of these people out there who've seen this material, who, I mean, he was completely confident that this was from another part of the galaxy based on the isotopic elements in the material, the construction techniques, and especially the tiny scale of it. He said, we don't have technology yet on Earth that can create technology at that tiny scale of, electrons. It was just so small, And so he said, no, it wasn't made here. And also the zero gravity aspect to how it was made. So that's one of the things I actually mentioned in my most recent work. And I've come across these people over the years, and I know, Bob, you have too. And you just know that there's a much bigger reality that we're going to have a national discussion about at some point.
Yeah. We need an entirely new ontology, and to undergo this massive epistemological revolution in order to kind of take all this in. And I just believe consciousness is fundamental. And the reason I say that is, as a quantum mechanics person, we've already discussed it. Nothing is real in standard quantum mechanics until your consciousness observes it. That tells you all of reality is nothing until consciousness takes a look at it. That's a big statement, but it says consciousness is at the bottom of everything.
Bob, that is the Copenhagen interpretation, what you're presenting there. Yep. And that is one way to look at it, but you're aware of the other interpretations too.
Yeah.
You know about Hugh Everett, and you know about relative states.
Hugh Everett and his multi-universe stuff is really, really interesting. And it is also a way of having all that stuff branch out, and we just can't see the other branches because we're living on one branch.
Yeah, it's right. And whether it's one or the other doesn't matter. It's that exactly what you're saying. We only see one branch at a time. The other branches are there. And there's many, many other branches. And, you know, Bob, people used to joke that Copenhagen was also the disappearing worlds theory, which is all the other branches. Like you're saying, you're conscious of one branch and the other ones just disappear. But where do they go? So people like me believe that the other branches are actually there, even if you're not conscious of them, and you can view them. And that's what RV is somehow tuning into those other branches.
Oh, that's interesting. That's very so. I mean, look, a lot of people don't understand that mathematics allows for these growing spaces, and there's a construct which is used in quantum mechanics called Hilbert spaces. And these Hilbert spaces have many, many, many dimensions. They can be infinite dimensional. And this piece over here has no interaction with this piece over here. And so it's completely possible.
Yes. And one more thing, the newest interpretation of this that I've come across, Howard Wiseman and others, is the many interacting worlds view, which says that what we perceive as a quantum wave function is actually a product of slightly interacting parallel realities. Yeah. When they've done the simulations, it reproduces the quantum wave function pretty closely. So one way to look at it is it's not like they're separate quantum mechanics parallel. They're all actually the same thing. It's just how you look at it, whether you see it as a quantum wave function, the branches interacting a little bit slightly or not.
Well, you know that because they produce the same experimental results.
Yeah.
They are all the same and are just different perspectives. But as long as they produce the same, until we find some reason they don't produce an experimental result, they're all viable. Right now, they produce the same results.
They produce the same results. And what we need, though, and I think everyone listening will probably agree, for so long, science has pushed all these phenomena away that we call paranormal, right? They even give it another name, which Lou Elizondo has ridiculed over and over. Why call it paranormal when para is also used in parachute and paramedic? And all these phenomena that we wanted to push away, we call paranormal and marginalize them. But let's say that's actually the fundamental reality, is things that bleed through, things that come from other realities that we normally don't have a lot of contact with, things that in their world, we're the ones that are paranormal, right? And so it seems to me where science needs to go is to stop being afraid of these topics and bring them forward to say, rather than try to disprove RV and to explain away cryptids as some sort of delusional psychosis of weird people, and that UFOs are actually just weather balloons. Everything that we're interested here on this show that we've been able to show through so much evidence for decade after decade, it's been ridiculed, it's been stigmatized, and it's been marginalized. It's no wonder that people who are interested or have had experience with this don't want to come forward, right?
Yep.
But science needs to embrace all of this. And that's where it needs to stop denying the evidence. Stop saying, oh, these are not meteorites, as they did in the late 1700s. And so, oh, they're volcano stones, because there's no activity beyond the moon. Aristotle said it's static beyond the moon. There can't be stones falling from the sky because there are no stones in the sky. Well, our modern science is the same way with a lot of these topics. It's just, we know there can't be cryptids because, it's like Stanton Friedman used to say, don't confuse me with the facts or research by proclamation. I'm just going to say this is delusional, or find some way to discount the evidence. I've seen them do this with RV, even though the evidence shows that when you do RV, as Bob said right at the beginning of the show, you get a higher percentage of hits than you should be getting if this is all random, right?
Right.
But it's the same way with all these topics. Science needs to get off its big hobby horse here, and instead of trying to discount the phenomena and ridicule the witnesses, how about coming up with a reasonable explanation of what would account for all this data? Now, it could be that consciousness creates the reality. It could be you have different branches, whatever it is. But we need to have a discussion that's based on reality, not on denying the evidence, or we're going to be just like those people that were denying meteorites in 1800.
May I jump in here for a quick second? Because we got about 90 seconds. You bring up a good point about scientists opening their mind, but what the public sees, Simeon, is people like Neil deGrasse Tyson coming out making fun of these stories, making fun of these adventures. And when you have a media personality that large, it comes with a lot of pull on social media and with the television and radio and print audience. How do you combat that when the most popular scientist in the United States comes out and says, none of this is real. Stop wasting your time. We haven't been visited. Sure, there may be life out there somewhere, but it ain't here. I mean, this is very tough on a lot of people and on the public side.
Yeah, well, I grew up in the Museum of Natural History. I was born in Manhattan on the Upper West Side, and my mom would take me to the Museum of Natural History all the time, where Neil Tyson deGrasse is based at. So you can, institutions since World War II have been paying scientists to be conformists, to toe the line, and to hide anomalies. And as long as the system has been rewarding people for that type of conformity, they won't want to take the risk of looking at new data. But, it was Hal Puthoff that said we're going to have a Sputnik moment if we don't get in line here and look at the data. So,
gentlemen, we got you for another half an hour. Science Bob, we got to get some audience questions next half hour as well. Science Bob and Friends with special guest, Dr. Simeon Hyde. We continue to look at all weird, strange things from a scientific level tonight on Science Bob and Friends. We'll return to Spaced Out Radio right after this. This is a stellar show tonight.
Well, I mean, you're an easy interview because you got so much interesting material. It takes almost no effort to put together a good show. And watch, the audience is going to have a ton of good questions, I'm sure.
Yeah, we've got a great audience too. It's partly we know our audience. Our audience love this. They ask great questions. They know what you're talking about. They read, and it's easy to talk to them. But guys, when I was in high school, I was 4 years on the debate team. I was co-captain, and I learned one thing: you follow the evidence. These topics have a lot of evidence.
Yeah.
Why? A lot of scientists are afraid of it. That's a good sociological issue.
Drives me nuts when scientists want to dismiss actual evidence. Look, I'm a Bayesian. You don't dismiss evidence. You factor it in with some level of belief, right? Yeah. And you can change your level of belief over time, given the way the observations go. But you don't dismiss evidence. You weigh it differently.
Right. Yeah. And guys, every day that I wake up, I think that our society is going to have a train wreck if we don't start having a national discussion about these topics. You can't keep your head in the sand for over a century without getting so out of touch with reality that it becomes dysfunctional. You know what I'm saying? It's like a rubber band. You're pulling it back and you're pulling back. Eventually, it's going to snap forward. Now, the longer you take to let it go, the more force it's going to come forward when it finally snaps forward. And too many of these topics just have not had the level of attention they deserve with the data. It's too easy to be MIT and say that Fleischmann and Pons were just wrong without looking at why the labs that tried to reproduce Fleischmann and Pons couldn't do it. You know what I'm saying? Google attempted to reproduce cold fusion recently, and they said after 450 experiments they couldn't do it, but they've never shared their data. Well, if they don't share the data, we don't know why their particular palladium, which has to be released, from my knowledge of it, is very specifically doped with silver and a couple other elements to have the right types of cracks in it for the hydrogen, to kind of do what it has to do to form clusters. If they don't share their data, then we don't make any progress. So, anyway.
But isn't that the conspiracy? Talk about what you've seen, but never talk about how you got there?
I guess so. But if we just if we don't say how we get there, you're going to have more and more people having contact with these cryptids, as you well know, Dave, and ordinary people, and they don't know what they experienced, and they're not going to talk about it to their neighbors. They're going to watch your show, which is great. They're going to watch this show. But if you don't have a collective discussion, we're going to end up like, where we were in the Middle Ages, where we're just going to say, well, it's either got to be the church or Aristotle, and we're not in. Back then they weren't interested in looking at data. It just had to see, well, what fits Aristotle, what fits the church. And I don't think we want to go back to that, in my view. So.
I thought you were going to say a little bit more, and I shoved a cookie in my mouth.
No, I think I've said enough, guys. And the funny thing is, Bob, the thing about these books, I never know when a book is going to show up. Almost like it's like you gather so much information and new ideas. All of a sudden, you see the book in your mind's eye, and you see all the chapters. It doesn't happen to me very often. So far, only 4 times my whole life. It just shows up. You feel like you gotta do it. It's weird, but that's where those books came from. So,
yep.
We got some good questions coming here, too, from our audience.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
I don't have all the answers either, but I know I have a lot of the questions. It's the question.
I think we all have the questions.
Yeah. And by the way, Dark Matter Monsters has been #1 in electromagnetism for like 5 days now. It's really, pretty much hovering around. It's amazing that a book about cryptids is top in electromagnetism. I'm kind of flattered by that, right? Ordinary scientists are looking in the electromagnetism category with books about engines and, Maxwell's equations. And there's a picture of Bigfoot in one of the covers. So they must have wondered what happened to their reality.
All right. Thank you tonight to Marty, Kira, Thomas, Lala, Ken, and Linda for the super chats. Wonderful way to support what we do on this show. Thank you to everybody who's given us a thumbs up. We're 1 away from 100. Get your thumbs up in, everyone, because it really does help with our algorithm. We really appreciate it. Here we go. We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you so much for tuning us in. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate it. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter @Spaced Out Radio, Instagram @Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok @Spaced Out Radio. Here we go till the top of the hour. Science Bob and Friends with Dr. Bob McGwier, formerly of Virginia Tech University, and joining us as a special guest, Dr. Simeon Hine, hanging on out, talking remote viewing. Bob, we're going to get right into some audience questions for you guys.
Please go ahead.
All right, let's start off with Bree here, who is asking, Simeon, have you experienced the energy at Nederland, Colorado yet?
Yes, I've been up there a few times. It's only, it's about half hour up from Boulder, up the road there. It's an area where they have cryptid encounter sightings, here and there. Interesting place. Up in the mountains, way high, a couple thousand feet higher than here.
Did you see any cryptids?
I have never seen a cryptid yet, guys. I'm sure there'll be a first time. I've spoken to so many people, again, like Black Swan Ghosts. Just as an aside, I encountered so many Bigfoot witnesses in Colorado since I moved here. I don't know why it took me so long to realize that this was an important topic. but I've encountered many people who have encountered Bigfoot one way or another. And finally, they told me their story. Maybe they hadn't talked to anyone before. And it's amazing how many people have actually heard the tree knocks or seen something or footprints. It's fascinating. And the Sasquatch Outpost in Bailey has a whole map. It shows you how widespread it is, even if you don't hear about it every day.
Lizzie says she's had a lot of paranormal and past life experiences there, which is really cool.
Oh, well, that's great. Is Lizzie someone, a Colorado native who frequents? Yeah. I can see it.
Yeah, she lives in Denver.
Fantastic. Yeah.
You know, it's funny that you say that. Myself, living in a logging community, it is. There's my moth now. Strolling over. Yeah,
moth person.
Yeah, I got Mothman in the studio right now. Maybe he'll come by for an interview. But the one thing about like living in a logging community like I do, Simeon, I mean, every chance I get, I talk to the loggers. Every chance I get, and I'll just say, hey, you know, you're out in the mountains, you're in these areas. What's the strangest thing you've seen? And it opens up the conversation. Now, a lot of them will say, well, you know, I haven't seen anything, but my friend told me, and that's how I find a lot of the areas on where to go, because the loggers will know.
Yes.
They're the ones pushing the roads through. And power line people working on those big, giant power lines, that's another great source to have.
That is so true, Dave. I spoke to a nurse recently in the Northwest, and she said she's had a lot of loggers over the years in the hospital, some who go back to the 1940s and 30s, way back, old timers, said the exact same thing. They would say to her, you know, we never, outside the logging community, we don't talk about this because we don't want people to think we're weird, but this is what we see. Exactly the same thing. And she said the same thing. They see things out there they normally don't tell people about.
The best story I heard happened in 2018 here in my community, about an hour and 20 minutes southeast of me, where a logging crew was literally half the crew was scared away. They refused to work that logging cut line because every morning when they would show up at about, say, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, and in summertime, they're getting there at 3, 4, 5 o'clock, and they are working until 9, 10 o'clock at night. They said in that time when they were gone, by the time they came back, there was footprints all over the place. Gear had been turned over, barrels had been turned over. The one crew had this giant tractor that had a dent on it, and the boulder that was thrown against that tractor was estimated to be between 300 and 400 pounds.
Yeah.
I mean, and it left a giant dent in it. So it wasn't just something pushing against it. It was thrown. And those guys got scared. And I was talking to one member of that logging crew on there. He said, we had to finish that job shorthanded because there was literally guys saying, nope, not doing this. But the forestry has to keep it quiet. They have no choice, because what it's going to do is the minute they find, if they come out and say, hey, we need some investigators here, government comes in, their scientists come in, they shut down the area. Right. And now you've lost a multi-million-dollar contract over some woo.
There you go. Just like pilots, civilian pilots don't report you up. Yeah. I've heard these stories too. And I had some witnesses, even a friend who I knew for so long. And she said she had huge rocks thrown at her and a friend just hiking in the Rockies. I mean, she said if we had been hit by those, we would have been killed. They never actually hit them, but they came close enough that it was really creepy. So, yeah.
Oh, very sure. Very sure. All right, let's get to another question from YJ. It was asking, is science rigged? Example, flawed peer review, lack of integrity in where finding is allocated, scientists being muzzled.
Well, Bob can chime in. I would say it's not science that's the problem. Science is neutral. Science is evidence-based as we know it now. It's the institutions that reward conformity. To me, that's the real issue here. It doesn't reward innovation. It rewards towing the line. as a graduate student, Bob probably has experienced this too. You're told to just don't go out on the fringe, stick with mainstream topics. You do want to be successful in this field, don't you? Stick to the things that are going to make you successful from an external point of view. Now, I was brought up to think that success is being your own person and following the truth. It's not a popularity contest. That's just how I was brought up, is to really be not go for the popularity. But I'm afraid too many scientists, it's the way the funding is set up and so forth that just rewards kind of not pushing the envelope too much. And that's why people will say to me, I could talk about this, but it would ruin my career. And unfortunately, the farther you go along in any profession, there's going to come a point where you're not going to take risks anymore, because you've invested so much in your profession as is, and now you have bills to pay and family and mortgages, that you're not going to take those risks anymore. And it's easier to say, what you're saying is true, but I'd have to reevaluate my whole worldview, and I don't want to do that, which is what I've heard people say.
Bob, I want to hear you chime in on this.
Well, I'm a little bit waffly. I just don't quite know how to comment on it. So I'm going to leave it. Don't think I have a cogent comment for once in my life.
You chicken.
Yeah,
I mean, I can see that, and I'll call you out on that. A great question, YJ. Let's go to Tony over in the UK. He's got a pair of questions. Simeon, is the moon occupied?
Based on a lot of research and evidence and RV sessions, it would seem to be, at least some of the time. That's what the RV sessions point to. And people that have worked for NASA have said that they've seen, Greer's witnesses and others that worked at the National Photo Interpretation Center and all these places that I guess they work with the NRO. It's to look at pictures and stuff, say that they've seen the structures, and we've seen some reproductions of those. So it would seem to indicate to me, based on everything I've seen, that at least there are structures there. It was occupied at one time, if not now. And we haven't gone back there, so maybe that's why.
Well, let's maybe we're scared off. Second question from Tony. Apart from humans, who or what is making these crop circles?
Yeah, so the crop circle phenomena is actually more complex than anyone wants to believe, either on either side, that they're all man-made or they're all made by ETs. I know evidence for all types, and even in dark matter monsters, I have a photo of one that I saw in 2010 at Westbury Whitehorse, which was clearly created by plasmas or whirlwinds or something like that. I could just see from the way the wheat was splayed out, not spiral, splayed out, that there had to be something that came down and pushed that wheat out, or plasmas, which people who in rural areas, you've seen these whirlwinds and so forth. But in Black Swan Ghost, I have a witness, Louise Voves, who's passed on now, but I got to speak to her and videotape her testimony of seeing a craft while they were picking huckleberries in Usk, Washington. Her brother made huckleberry products for a living. She said that disc, before it left, went right low over the meadow and flattened those plants. She said 90 degrees, flat as a pancake. To me, that seems a lot like what we've heard around circles, crop circles. So yeah, people have made them. I've been out with the groups that make them, and there's no doubt that people now make them, but there are other types too that are not made by people. And, we have those witnesses also. So I think that there's, a variety of causes of crop circles. So beyond people, you would have vortex plasmas like Takeaki Matsumoto, the Japanese nuclear physicist, mentions in this book just came out about a week ago, Steps to the Discovery of Electronuclear Collapse. He talks about crop circles in this book, having seen them around thunderstorms. This is his collected papers going back to 1990. And he says that they would be a product of ball lightning, since that's what his topic is, especially related to microball lightning and cold fusion and low energy nuclear reaction. But he says they would see them up in the island of Hokkaido after thunderstorms, crop circles. So you get plasmas, you have ball lightning, you have UFOs, plus people.
All right, let's get to another question from our audience here. And this comes from Eric with a K, where we are his second favorite show. We're number 2, people. We are number 2. And he wants to know, Bob, Eric with a K wants to know your Bigfoot story.
Well, I don't really have a Bigfoot story other than I went out and saw some footprints once or twice, but I've never seen the hairy thing.
Well, that's a pretty honest answer right there. You know, you got to go out with Super Duke at World Bigfoot Radio.
I want to add one thing to that, guys. There's a new independent documentary came out. It's called A Flash of Beauty, Bigfoot Revealed. You can see it on Vimeo and Amazon streaming services. I really like this new documentary because in the final half hour, it's all interviews with psychiatrists and psychologists. And they're not saying these people are delusional. What they're saying is the opposite. And it goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the show with RV and deleting information that doesn't fit into your consensus reality. What these psychiatrists and psychologists said is, it's not just that you won't talk about it, you will literally forget about it. Your mind has so many mental defense mechanisms against things that seem unreal. You could literally have a Bigfoot encounter somewhere out in the woods or wherever you go and not remember it later because your conscious mind will have pushed it back. This is something we know from RV is true. So that's another aspect to it. Some of us could have had encounters and we simply don't remember it.
Right. Okay, let's get to Brazelhoff here, who's asking, what about the phrase scientism? What do you think about that?
Well, I think that's a good one. And I've often thought that the treatment, a lot of what we call paranormal, sometimes it's a little scientistic, that it sort of has the mantle of what looks like what would be a scientific investigation. I think Project Blue Book would have fit into that. Certainly the Condon Committee report, which was done right up the road at CU here, where it has the trappings of a scientific investigation, but and this is my take on the question. There could be other aspects to it, but the researchers have already reached their conclusion ahead of time. They're just sort of making, they got the beakers and the white lab coats and, what we would have thought of as science in the 50s and 60s. And it kind of looks scientific, but it's actually not really questioning the fundamental assumptions. I think Bob would agree. The reason you have data and you have statistics is you actually almost want to be proven wrong. You want your own ideas actually to go up against the data and see, does it support it or not? That's really what it is, to be quite objective about it. So there's a difference between actually doing that and having an open mind, being open to the data and the evidence versus just kind of acting as if you're doing science, but having reached the conclusion ahead of time, which I think we've seen a lot of for the past couple decades around these topics, which is why we haven't had any real new revelations about it until past few years, I'd say.
All right, let's get to another question. This one from Jules, who is asking, please speak on the similarities of cryptids and poltergeist and coherent matter phenomena. And she calls you Sweets.
Yes. Well, Jules and I met. Jules took my RV class, Bob, live in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, a couple of years ago. We spent 3 great days together with a small group there on beautiful Lake Coeur d'Alene. And this is how Jules and I met. We actually ended up staying at the same Airbnb. So thanks for asking that question, Jules, because that's what Dark Matter Monsters is all about. Guys, this is really what I saw looking at all these phenomena. There are too many similarities between what seem like separate phenomena to say that they're separate. And what really got me was looking at some of the phenomena related to cold fusion, low energy nuclear reaction, all aspects of what seem to be a fifth state of matter. Jules mentions it here, coherent matter. a state of matter where the particles are entangled with each other, like ball lightning, and what we call paranormal phenomena. And just one aspect of that we often see. How often do you hear around cryptids, poltergeists, and other phenomena that it gets suddenly cold? You often hear this around cryptid sightings, that right before the forest got really quiet to the point where no one even heard any crickets, right? You hear this around UFO sightings. It's in the NICAP report, Strange Effects of UFOs, and so forth, ghost haunted sites and so forth. And the big surprise to me, looking into cold fusion Leonard and the Lockheed Martin patents and so forth, is that these same phenomena happen around coherent matter too. Is you get sudden temperature changes, you get your batteries and cameras shorting out, which I have personally seen many times around crop circles. Who would have thought that cryptids were related to crop circles? And the only way that could be true is if there's some fundamental underlying principle under all these phenomena that we call paranormal. I'm not saying that Bigfoot is making the crop circles, or dogmen either, or any of their cryptid friends. What I'm saying is that there are some similarities between these that show us that all of these phenomena that we call paranormal are actually another state of matter, which I'm calling here coherent matter, and other researchers in the field of condensed matter have called coherent matter. It's where the particles, the subatomic particles, chemical elements, they all attain the same frequency and temperature and actually act like sort of one thing, which is what ball lightning does. And this is why you see orbs and ball lightning around crop circles, around cryptids and other phenomena, UFOs, haunted sites, is because it's actually showing us that there's another state of matter here. And I think we've, as a society, we've actually had some contact through it, through these, huge fusion tokamak reactors, where you try to create these really strong magnetic fields to contain a really high temperature fusion reaction like would go on in the sun. But the big story here is nature is already doing it in its own way, which is why you see orbs and ball lightning and all these anomalous phenomena in these different settings, which, on the surface seem like different phenomena, but actually have the same underlying principles at work. At least I think so. So great question. Thanks.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. We're caught up on the questions so far, I believe. Pardon me. We got one more here. This one from Tony Simeon. In your opinion, who collaborated with humans to make the Great Pyramid?
It's a great question. I don't know the answer apart from the RV sessions we've done on it, where it did seem when we went back in time and did the Sphinx, Great Pyramids, and so forth. I mean, you can use viewing to do this, and you don't have, at the end of the session, you don't have the confirmation you would have from a target where you have tangible evidence in the present to really investigate. But it did seem that there was frequencies involved, sound and so forth. So it wouldn't be surprising that, there's just other aspects to it technologically. Maybe other beings were involved in that showed us how to do that. All I have is the RV sessions, and they did suggest some other technology was involved. So maybe it came from somewhere else.
Maybe.
That would be interesting.
Yeah. It wouldn't be surprising. You have these pyramids all over the planet. Also Teotihuacan in Mexico, which I visited a couple of times. I mean, how did people back then know how to do this? Because from what I've learned about it, the tolerances of the way the stones were put together rival what we, in some cases, exceed what we can do today.
Well, so, that and the two identical pyramids at Giza, they are aligned more perfectly than I think we can do today.
Is that right? So that's kind of astounding to make you think a little bit.
Totally. Bob, we got 2 minutes left. Where do you want to go with Simeon?
Simeon, what have you got coming up in the immediate future in the way of appearances?
Yeah, so I'll be on Coast to Coast with George Knapp. I think 22nd, really early in the morning, 12 to 2 a.m. Pacific. Jeff Rent's coming up on Friday night. And I'll be doing a live seminar in Estes Park, October 21st to the 23rd, where we'll be covering these topics. We'll go a little deeper into some of the science behind it, do some RV and some cryptid night watches up there near Estes Park at some of these hotspots I've been told about where to go to see some of these creatures. So I'll put some information on my website. That's newcrystalmind.com, my blog. I'll be putting information up there. If you want to come to Estes Park for that weekend, and we will cover all these topics in some
that's great. Dave, what do you got?
Well, you know what, Simeon, it is always a pleasure to have you on Spaced Out Radio. And once again, we're going to bridge this to keep on happening a little bit more frequent, because I think it's good for our audience. It's good for everyone involved to have someone of your open-mindedness and perspective on this. And, you know, like I said at the beginning of the show, I always feel smarter after you're on, you know, and that's a tough feat for me.
Well, thanks, guys. But I also have to say, both of you have really helped me throughout the years listening to this show. I've learned so much from both of you, too. So, again, you know, it's all of us working together. We're going to figure this out, and we're going to make some progress, you know, because it's synergistic between all of us who are involved here.
20 seconds. Jonathan Davies wants to know if you've ever remote viewed Mount Hayes.
Oh, hey, Jonathan. That actually, no, but that's what Pat Price did. We know about those 4 viewings that Pat Price did. He came in one day, I think, and I think he just came on his own and said to Hal and Russell, hey, I did these sessions, Mount Hayes and Mount Zeal, right? In Australia, and Mount Hayes is the one in Alaska, and 2 other mountain ranges. So look up that right viewing.
All right. Dr. Simeon Hine on Science Bob and Friends. Dr. Bob McGwier, we say goodnight to you. And coming up next, we're heading to the swamp. Then the UFO Report with Tim Senor. Spaced Out Radio's hour number 3 is next. Great show, gentlemen.
Well,
Great show.
Simeon, it was great. We entertained all of us.
All right. Welcome back, Spaced Out Radio, hour number 3, technically, right? So, as you may or may not know, if you're coming in late and you're like, "What's going on here?" Guy in Calgary and others, Dave Scott was out today. He is with his daughter at her graduation, right? So we were filling in, and Science Bob was our guest tonight, was slated to be our guest tonight, but he ended up not feeling well. So we've been doing a mishmash, right? We ran the Science Bob interview with Simeon Hine, Dr. Simeon Hine, Dr. Science Bob McGwier, and awesome show, right? So we cut their hour 3 so that we could come back live and go ahead and re-engage with the audience. So that's exactly what's going on right now. And I'm doing what the audience is asking, right? So the audience asked for trivia. They asked for spaced out trivia, and we're going to end up getting to that, right? So that's kind of what we're going to do to finish off the show. We only have about 30 minutes left here, and we're going to get you guys all involved and engaged. Appreciate you, Kira. Great replay of the interview. And yeah, you know, you had to think on your feet. It's like I told Aloha Dave, sometimes you got to take lemons and make strawberry lemonade. And that's what we did tonight. And I think the chat has been really engaged and involved and really actually awesome. So we'll go ahead and get to that. Now, one thing is, I know we'll get Science Bob back, and I really had some stuff I wanted to talk to him about and kind of pick his brain about. And it was, you know, this is time sensitive stuff, right? So by the time I get with Science Bob, this stuff will be old news and be in the past. So I just wanted to point something out. This is one of the main things that I wanted to talk to Science Bob about. And I'll take like 5 minutes to just kind of discuss a couple things that I found here. But Stephen Greenstreet released another interview with the Basement Office. New York Post, so courtesy New York Post for these slides that I'm about to show. It was part 2 of the Sean Kirkpatrick interview. Now, we all know, if you've watched the Sean Kirkpatrick interview, the part 1, then you know it climaxed at the end of the video, showed where Stephen Greenstreet pointed out that essentially there were some things that weren't adding up, right? So we know Sean Kirkpatrick went ahead and stated all along, actually, that he's had no involvement with UFOs or the subject prior to 2022, right? And it was pointed out by Brandon Fugel in interview in 2022 on the Basement Office as well, where he stated that he was flown out to Washington, D.C. to present material for Skinwalker Ranch. And who was there? Who was in attendance? It was Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick. This in 2018, the same person who said that he had no UFO experience or exposure to the subject prior to 2022. So what happened in that moment is Kirkpatrick was caught in a lie. We know skeptics hold Kirkpatrick high and mighty, and they hold him at his word. They never challenge anything that he says. If he comes out and says no proof of alien activity, they kind of go with it, and they kind of use that to try to slam dunk on the UFO community. And then at the same time, they go ahead and they try to sift through the past life of a David Grush or anyone else who comes out on behalf of ufology, trying to bring to light that these things are really happening. So we know that I think what you saw there is you saw either, like in the poll, either Kirkpatrick is blatantly lying, he's unaware of what it is that he's saying, or the government is making him say these things. And I think it could technically be a little bit of all those things there. Definitely, I think what we caught was the government, red-handed in the current active disinformation campaign, essentially what it was, because he went so hard to say no activity, though we know there was activity. We caught him in a lie. So what else has he lied about? That's really what it is. So anyways, they came out with part 2 of the interview today. And this was just something I wanted to bring up because I think it was troubling. And I won't go through this whole thing. There are a lot of points I have here, but there's one thing in specific that I think is really dangerous that Sean Kirkpatrick is kind of stating and bringing to the table. One of those things, obviously, he came out in Greenstreet says all these reports ended up being false. this was the thing that I wanted to say, and we'll just only take a couple minutes before we go into the trivia. But one of the quotes here, as you see, was an interview in the room with Peter Bergen, interview with Sean Kirkpatrick, January 23rd of this year. A quote stating, it's almost like a religion. It's basically a religion, right? So that was, to me, that was part of the current disinformation campaign to go ahead now and catalog ufology as a religion, which, you know, there are some truths to that, but not, I wouldn't say you put the blanket statement like that over ufology. But he took it a step further, and this is the thing that troubled me, right? So one of the things that he said in this latest interview, and you guys could obviously go and check out the full interview, but he states decisions being made based on data or not based on data or evidence, but on fervent religious conviction. Fervent religious conviction. Keep those words in mind, right? This is where the narrative is now being shifted to, that we're not seeing UFOs, we're not having these experiences according to Kirkpatrick. It's just some fervent religious conviction. Now, with that in mind, I just wanted to say this, and that you can sit on this, simmer on this, and tell me what you think. But Kirkpatrick also stated a couple different things here. So, and this is actually Green Street. This is what Green Street said that Kirkpatrick related to him. Per Stephen Greenstreet, Kirkpatrick states the UFO true believers are a threat to national security. So my question, and just let that soak in. Kirkpatrick states the UFO true believers are a threat to national security. So do you see what those type of statements would do, right? A threat to national security. I don't see in any way how ufology is a threat to national security. Why? But it kind of, you know, when you realize that he was caught in a lie and that was an active government disinformation campaign, propaganda, then a statement like this is like par for the course as far as what it is that their mission is, right? So now they're saying there's nothing to this. Then they're saying that the group of people that are saying these things are real are a fervent religious group with religious conviction, and then going even further to say that UFO true believers are a threat to national security. And I just have to ask, why are they positioning the phenomena this way? Why shine us in this light? There's nothing true about that statement, but this is something, this is the narrative that is attempting to be pushed, I think, by the government through Sean Kirkpatrick. And it's sickening, disingenuous, and it's something you should be aware of and stay alerted of, because I think that could go to dangerous places, right? Statements like that can go to dangerous places, that UFO true believers are a threat to national security. I don't see how the two relate, and it's definitely sad. So I really wanted to get Science Bob's input on that. Maybe that's something that we could parking lot and bring back when we get when Science Bob is feeling better. But with that being said, I want to leave you, let that simmer and soak in your mind, and we'll probably end up readdressing that at some later time. But with that being said, I definitely want to go ahead and do what the audience requests, and that is to jump into some of this UFO trivia, spaced out trivia, in relation to space, paranormal, cryptids, all the other things that we actually indulge in. And let's go ahead and do that. Let me get our... And let me also get the YouTube chat lined up, because Mothman cheats, right? So I hear he cheats. I don't know for sure. I heard he cheats though. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into a list of things that I went ahead and curated for tonight to fill in time, and that's what we'll do for the next 28 minutes before we actually wrap up the show. So let me bring myself front and center, and I'm checking the chat. I'm making sure that I'm on top of everything so that no cheating can happen, right? No cheating can happen here. Now, to Mothman, Please spell it as best as you can, and let's use complete answers. Try to not make them incomplete, because I have to make a decision on if that's okay or not, right? All right, so here we go. No money, Sierra. We're not definitely playing for money, not tonight, right? Maybe as the channel grows and we go ahead and we get some more support from our viewers, and hopefully, and this is another thing, please share the show, right? I know you enjoy it yourself when you come in, but in your circle of friends outside of YouTube and outside of this conversation we have, share your love for the channel with other people, because we'd love to have as many people come in as possible to take part in the discussions that we have. And then also in the trivia, when we occasionally do this, we haven't really done it in a while, but in order to fill time and to make strawberry lemonade out of lemons, we will be doing that here tonight. So let's go ahead and jump into it. We're going to do just like last night. We'll jump into different categories, and we will go ahead and get it started with paranormal. Okay, paranormal. Now, make sure I want to get one that isn't too hard for you guys to get. Okay, who is the famous author of Dracula? Who is the famous author of Dracula? Who wrote Dracula? I'm sure you guys know for sure. Yes, I do see it in the chat. Okay, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, Paranormal is off to a great start. It is Bram Stoker. Bram Stoker. Bram Stoker. There we go, Paramore. Let me go ahead and tag your answer there. That is awesome. So we were rushing last night. We can actually take our time tonight and make sure we give you guys a shot here. So, okay, that is Bram Stoker. We're going to move into UFOs, right? UFOs. What is the name of the 1977 movie directed by Steven Spielberg that depicts contact with extraterrestrial beings? What is the name of the 1977 movie directed by Steven Spielberg that depicts contact with extraterrestrial beings? Yes, this is serious, Bob Berkins. Get your fingers ready, Bob Berkins. Do you know the answers to these questions? If not, just kick back and watch. Either or. It is Close Encounters of the Third Kind, CEOTK, right? That's what the abbreviation is. I'll take either or. So Close Encounters of the Third Kind, we know, well, we don't know, but we assume, we believe potentially that Steven Spielberg may have had some insider information on what to put into that movie, right? Depicted Jacques Vallée in the movie as well, by someone played a character depicting Jacques Vallée. So we know that potentially he had his ear to the street on that, because 50 years later, the movie still resonates, and the phenomena depicted in the movie is exactly what people are still reporting today. So that's awesome, Joe Monk. Thanks for going ahead and getting that here. Let's go ahead and jump on the next one here. So the next category is going to be cryptids, right? Cryptids. Okay, in which U.S. state is the legendary Jersey Devil most commonly associated? That's a gimme. You should get that. In which U.S. state is the legend of the Jersey Devil most commonly associated? Looks like Paramore is on the ball. New Jersey. I gave it to you. Jersey Devil. Jersey Devil's New Jersey, guys. Pretty easy. And once again, it's not really about winning. For some it is. It's really about getting knowledge. You should know the answers to these. You're in this field. You're in this subject. And if you don't know, now you know. So appreciate you, Paramore. We got it. All right, let's move on. So this is a space question, right? So space, okay. What is the term for the path a planet takes around the sun? What is the term for the path a planet takes around the sun? That is right. Lex Diaz got it. It is an orbit. It is definitely an orbit. Wait, I lost it here. The chat moves so fast. Lex Diaz. It is orbit. Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. Okay. All right. Let's keep it moving. Let's see. All right. We're going to jump back to paranormal. What is the name of the horror movie where a young girl is abducted by ghosts through her television set? What is the name of the horror film where a young girl is abducted by ghosts through her television set? All right. Lex Diaz got that with it is definitely Poltergeist. It is Poltergeist. I was young when that came out, and it was pretty scary. And I just remember watching it on HBO, right? Pretty crazy. So appreciate that. Poltergeist is the correct answer, Lex Diaz. Let's go ahead and keep it moving. Let's see. All right. We're going to jump back into UFOs. What is the term for the study of unidentified flying objects? What is the term for the study of unidentified flying objects? Ooh, Lex Diaz is quick with the fingers tonight. It is definitely going to be ufology. Even though I don't really like the term ufology, I mean, it simply means the study of UFOs, but I think it goes more than that, right? I think it covers more than UFOs, so I think it should be called something else. I'm up for what do they call it? Phenomenology. I like that a lot better. I like that a lot better than ufology, and I think it doesn't hold the stigma. So let's campaign #phenomenology. And great job. Appreciate it. Let's go ahead and move on. All right, we're back to cryptids. So let's see. Okay, easy. If you're a fan of this channel, there's no way you don't get this answer. Very easy. What is the name of the creature in American folklore said to be a giant ape-like being living in the forest? Very easy for you guys. It should be. What is the name of the creature in American folklore said to be a giant ape-like being living in the forest? Yep. Bigfoot or Sasquatch. Bigfoot or Sasquatch will work. And yeah, you definitely should know that one. Let's see. Who got that first ago? That was Lex Diaz, it appears. Yes, Lex Diaz got Bigfoot first. Lex Diaz is crushing it tonight. And let's see. All right. Okay, so we're going to jump into now another space question. This may be one, I don't know if you'll know this one. Okay, what is the term for a small body of matter from outer space that enters the Earth's atmosphere and burns up? What is the term for a small body of matter from outer space that enters the Earth's atmosphere and burns up? Okay, yes. It looks like Mr. X the Agnostic. Mr. X the Agnostic got it. It is definitely a meteorite. So anything, I guess, that comes into the Earth's atmosphere, burns up, is considered a meteorite. All right, great. Mr. X the Agnostic, appreciate that. That is the correct answer. All right, jumping back to paranormal. What is the name of the haunted mansion in San Jose, California, built continuously for 38 years? The name of the haunted mansion in San Jose, California. I think you guys may know this. It has stairs that don't go anywhere. Yes, Paramore. It is the Winchester House. I still haven't gone, right? I've been there. I've been in San Jose so many times. I actually used to spend summers there. and I never have gone to the Winchester House yet. Been to Santa Cruz, been to the mystery spot. I've been all type of places, but I've never been here. So that's on my list. Great job, Paramarv. That is the Winchester House. And let's see. Let's go. All right. UFOs. UFOs. In what year did the Phoenix Lights UFO sightings occur? What year did the Phoenix Lights UFO sighting occur? All right, and it looks like Lex Diaz again. Yes, 1997 would be the year this happened. And it's crazy because I'm just thinking of what I was doing in 1997, and it sure wasn't paying attention to the Phoenix Lights. So, you know, learning that information when I did, this was kind of, in a lot of the things that have happened, it's like, what was I doing at the moment that happened? And that's kind of the thought process I go through. But great job, Lex Diaz. That is correct. 1997. And my friend, good friend, Tom King, filmed it. You may be familiar with Tom King. Shout out to Tom King. Let's see. All right. Let's go ahead and move to another cryptid question. Okay. What is the term for creatures whose existence is based on folklore, anecdotes, and reported sightings, but not scientifically proven? What is the term for creatures whose existence is based on folklore, anecdotes, and reported sightings, but not scientifically proven? Lex Diaz. Oh, nope. Paramarv. Looks like Paramarv. It is a cryptid. That is actually the definition of a cryptid. You may not have known that, right? I mean, it's definitely a cryptid, right? So you are a winner if you walk away with knowledge that you didn't have before. That's the reason why we even do this. Maybe you know it, maybe you don't, but if you're listening and paying attention, then you'll walk away with knowledge, which is always good, right? Knowledge is key. All right, let's get into another space question. What is the name of the dwarf planet located in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter? What is the name of the dwarf planet located in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter? I see it. I see it. Trevor Iron Wolf says Ceres, and Ceres is the correct answer. It is Ceres. That is awesome. It's awesome, right? Steel sharpening steel, filling your brain with knowledge. That's what you're getting with this trivia. People are like, why you didn't trivia? That's just exactly why, right? Knowledge. That was a left field question, Moody Mongol. And that's kind of what I want to make sure. I want to go ahead and put easy ones, but then I want you to think too, right? End of the day, if I ask you that question again, you'll know exactly what the answer is, which is awesome. So, okay, now we are jumping back into paranormal, and let's see what we get here. Paranormal. What is, this is a gimme, so this is very easy. You should get this here. What is the name of the famous haunted doll said to be possessed by a dark spirit which inspired the Annabelle movies? What is the name of the famous haunted doll said to be possessed by a dark spirit which inspired the Annabelle movies, right? Exactly. So that's it, yeah. Annabelle, that would be the answer. It was kind of a gimme. But I found out I can't remember who I was interviewing, may have been Bree, and so was someone, But the Annabelle doll, it doesn't look like the one in the movie. Apparently it's the Raggedy Ann and Andy doll. I had no clue that that's what the Annabelle doll actually looked like. So it's pretty cool to know that, and something that just cool to know. So great answer, Paramore. Appreciate that. Exactly, Raggedy Ann and Andy doll. Exactly. All right, so which I had a Raggedy Ann and Andy doll, which even makes it more creepier now than I think back. Let's see. Okay. What is the name? Which famous musician claimed to have seen a UFO while in New York City in 1974? Which famous musician claimed to have seen a UFO while in New York City in 1974? That would be correct, Paramore. It was John Lennon. It was definitely John Lennon. Christine says the Beatles guy. Yes, definitely John Lennon. It was definitely John Lennon. And let me go ahead and mark that one. Okay, great. All right, great job. All right. So next, we'll go back to another cryptid question. And I'm going to... I'm already laughing at this, but which cryptid is described as a humanoid with bat-like wings, glowing red eyes, first reported in 1956 in West Virginia? Which cryptid is described as a humanoid with bat-like wings, glowing red eyes, first reported? Everybody, stop the press! Stop the press! Stop the press! It looks like Mothman actually got it first this time. Round of applause. He never gets it first, and this is his namesake, right? It is the Mothman for sure. And I just watched Mothman Prophecies again yesterday, which is an awesome film. Great job to Mothman. You finally got it. I'm so proud of you, man. But he never gets it, Joe Monk. He said that's cheating. It's in his name, but he never gets it, Joe Monk. That's the crazy part. You would think, right? Yeah. Congratulations to Mothman. Man, I'm proud of you on that one. Okay, so another space question. What planet is known as the morning star or evening star due to its bright appearance and is often confused to be a UFO? Yep, it is Venus. And as my good friend Tom King says, if you are sky watching, you will often be screwed by Venus. That's literally what he says. Shout out Tom King again. Just made me think of him with that. He definitely says that you will be screwed by Venus. So make sure it's not Venus, essentially. Great job, Joe Monk. Joe Monk, great job. Okay, all right, back to some paranormal stuff here. We got okay, I don't know, I didn't know this one. Maybe you guys do. In which American state is the haunted Waverly Hills Sanatorium located? In which American state is the haunted Waverly Hills Sanatorium located? I didn't know this one off the bat, and I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't either. So we'll give it a second. I don't see it. I don't see it. No. Okay, apparently this is in the state of Kentucky. The state of Kentucky. So put that in your mental data bank, and we'll move on to the next question here. All right. So UFOs. Who is the former Canadian defense minister who publicly stated that aliens are real and among us? Who is the former Canadian defense minister who publicly stated that aliens are real and among us? Yeah, gotta give it to Paramore, first and last name, Paul Hellyer. Obviously, Paul Hellyer has other Hellyers in his family, so Joe Monk, that can't work. So go ahead, Paramore. Appreciate you. All right. Let's see. All right, into cryptids again. Okay, maybe you know this one, maybe not. What is the name of the famous lake monster said to live in Lake Champlain, located between New York and Vermont? What is the name of the famous lake monster said to live in Lake Champlain, located between New York and Vermont? Paramore got it. It's Champ. It is Champ. The answer is Champ. So if you didn't know, now you know. Appreciate it, Paramore. All right. So, see, we got a few minutes here, so we'll do a couple more and then we'll tally it up here. Okay. Space question. Who is known as the, quote, father of modern rocketry for his pioneering work in rocket development? Who is known as the, quote, father of modern rocketry for his pioneering work in rocket development? Joe Monk. Joe Monk. It is Robert H. Goddard. That is the correct answer. Robert H. Goddard. Awesome, awesome. You would have thought Von Braun, right? You would have thought that, and I can't fault you for thinking that. But you know is Robert H. Goddard. Okay, let's go. Paranormal. If Castle Dude was here, he may know this. Which castle in Scotland is known for being one of the most haunted places in the world? Which castle in Scotland is known for being one of the most haunted places in the world? I agree, Paramore, all of them. I'm not going in any of them, but that's not the correct answer, but I do agree. Gotta give it to, I know what you're trying to say, Joe Monk, Edinburgh. I know it's a mistype, but I'll give it to Van Gogh. It's Edinburgh. Edinburgh Castle. Edinburgh Castle. Good job, Van Gogh. And let me see, I'll pick another one here. Let me see. We'll do two more. What is the term for people? This is a UFO question. What is the term for people who claim to have been abducted by aliens? What is the term for people who claim to have been abducted by aliens? So Mothman, it would definitely be an alien abductee. I'll take abductee. That's totally fine. I will totally take that one here to Mothman. Great job. Doesn't look like you're going to win today, but that was definitely excellent answer there. And a correct answer. Okay. And let's see. All right. We'll end it off with the cryptid question. Actually, we'll jump to a space question. This will be the last one. What is the name of the effect that causes the frequency of light or other waves to change due to the motion of the source or observer? What is the name of the effect that causes the frequency of light or other waves to change due to the motion of the source or observer? Yes, Joe Monk. Joe Monk. It is definitely Doppler effect. And that will be the last one here. Doppler effect. Good job, Joe Monk. You got it really quick, so that's awesome. And like I said, you're gonna walk away. Maybe the winner tonight. We'll see. We'll see. Let me tally it up. Let's tally up the replies here. All right, we got Paramarv with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Whoa, Paramarv, 8? Okay. Paramarv with 8. Joe Monk with 1. Joe Monk with 2, 3, 4. All right, Paramarv still in the lead with 8. Lex Diaz with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Lex Diaz just with 5. Okay, Paramarv still in the lead with 8. I think that might be the winner. We got Mr. X the Agnostic with 1. Okay, we got Trevor Ironwolf with 1. We got Tamothman with 1, 2. All right, and let's see. So that's it. That's Joe Monk. Okay, we got Van Gold also with 1. So the winner tonight, and just so happened to answer the word champ, is Paramarv, champ of the night. So congratulations to Paramarv, bringing it in tonight. Paramarv killed it, crushed it, and just like I said, it's really about the knowledge, right? From that, right? It's like trivia. Okay, right? You can sit back and listen to a story. You can sit back and gain information by listening to someone's story. You can also gain information by listening to this trivia and getting the right answer or trying to. And then if not, coming back the next time and killing it, like everyone has had their turn here. So everybody give the congratulations to Paramarv. Fire emojis in the chat for Paramarv. Awesome stuff. Great job. And Super Crazy Movie Geek, everybody else got 0. Yeah, that's funny. That is funny, but it's true. Yeah, it is true though. Super Crazy Movie Geek. Everybody else did get 0. Yeah, I don't know how else to put it. But with that being said, we had an awesome time tonight. We made strawberry lemonade out of lemons tonight, right? Awesome stuff. You guys are a part of that. I'm a part of that. Wishing well to Dave Scott, better health. Same to Science Bob out there. And I know we'll reconnect on this at another time. So what we'll do is go ahead and look in the chat and see. I know we got a super chat from Aloha Dave showing love. Thanks, Rob, for selecting it, and kudos for quick fix when hiccups occur. It's my pleasure. Glad I could be a part of making your evening a little bit better. Dave, as I understand, should be back tomorrow, but if not, I'm gonna check with him. If he's still feeling down, then I'll go ahead and consider filling in for the guy, because that's who I am. Yeah, and Joanne, yummy strawberry lemonade, exactly, and that's what we do. So with that being said, you guys are already space travelers. Consider taking the next step and join the club. That's right, you can join our Spaced Out Radio Space Travelers Club for as little as $5 per month by joining our Patreon. I would definitely like to thank all the viewers and listeners around the globe, around the planet Earth. Thanks for tuning your frequency to Spaced Out Radio, where we do what we do best, and we do each and every time. And what is that, you ask? We own the night. Let's get ready to get up out of here, guys.
Conversations that move the needle.
Conversations that move the needle.
You're listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio. You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
Hey everyone, guess what? We do not have ugly swag. We have spaced out radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your SOR swag. spacedoutradio.com, shop there today, and make yourself look good.
Never say never again.